There it is. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a regular meeting of the Madera County Board of Supervisors. Today is Tuesday, April 9th, 2019. The time is on my clock almost 9, and on this clock 9:04. I'll call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, is there any additions to the agenda?
No additions to the agenda.
Thank you. County Council, can you please read into the record the closed session items?
Sure, Chairman. There are 5 items listed on the agenda. However, we will not be reading labor negotiations into the agenda. There are no items for the board to discuss. So the remaining 4 items, there are 3 existing litigations under Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection D1. The names of the case are County of Madera versus Amerisource Bergen Drug Company, Cox versus Alex Padilla, and there's a decision whether to initiate litigation under subdivision D, paragraph 4 of the same section. There's also an existing litigation, Dennis Cicerelli versus the County of Madera, and the workers' comp number and the litigation court numbers are on the agenda. There are no other items. Thank you.
All right, we'll adjourn to closed session.
David wasn't here, we could start over again.
He was already in closed session.
I had her parent insurance. Yeah. How'd you go?
Will everybody please sit down? All right, welcome back. We're coming out of closed session. I realized before we went in, I didn't ask if there was any public comments on the closed session items. Is there any public comment on the closed session items? Seeing none, I'll call close to the public comment portion for the closed session, and I didn't do it before. Are there any reportable items on the closed session?
No reportable action from today's closed session.
All right, so welcome to the regular meeting of the Madera County Board of Supervisors. The time is 10 a.m. We're going to open and close the meeting in memory of, Tom, did you have anything?
It's not in memory of, it's get well for Dave Martin. He was a district ranger up in Norfolk for about 20 years, and he retired last year and went over to his kid's house the 1st of March, and I just found out about it a couple of weeks ago that he had a massive stroke, and he's a young man, and really he ran and everything all the time in good shape, and he's down. They had to ship him to L.A. to have a rehabilitation so he can even learn how to talk and walk. So he's a great man, and I just want to have him in our prayers. So
Great. And if we're doing it in get well, my daughter has tonsillitis, so let's let Emma get well as well.
there you go.
Are there any other open and closing then, memory of? All right, with that brings us to the invocation. We're going to have Pastor Charles Rigby from Valley West Christian to do the invocation. And Dan Foss, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please, after?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Thank you for having me, members of the board. It's an honor to be here and a privilege on behalf of the Madera Ministerial Association. Let us pray. Our Father, we thank you for yet another great day in this nation, the opportunity, Lord, to come before you with the agendized items and even those that may come up. But God, I pray for the wisdom of these men. I ask, Lord, that you would be with them as they make decisions today on policy and direction for our county. Lord, we thank you for the men and women that these decisions impact, for those that serve this county greatly every day. We just ask that your hand would be upon them. We pray, Lord, for protection. We pray for peace. And we even pray for healing, Lord, in the bodies of men like Mr. Martin. God, your word says to get wisdom, get understanding. Do not forget the words of the Lord or turn away from them. Do not forsake wisdom, for wisdom will protect you. Love wisdom, and wisdom will watch over you. The beginning of wisdom is to get with the Lord. Though it may cost all you have, get understanding. We thank you for these words, Lord, and we ask this in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd also like to recognize Councilmember Donald Hawley here in the back. Thank you for being here.
He didn't probably hear you.
Huh? He did. He waved.
He's politicking back there.
Yeah, he's already talking. That's all right. So that brings us to public comment. Item 4, Madam Clerk.
Public comment. The first 15 minutes of each regular session are set aside for members of the public to address the board on any matter under the jurisdiction of the board but not appearing on the agenda. The board will not take action on any items presented under public comment. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Anyone addressing the board is asked to print their name clearly on the speaker sheet at the podium and state their name and county of residence for the record.
As the speaker's coming down, I also want to recognize our City Police Chief, Dino Lawson's here as well. He hasn't come up to take me away yet, so I think I'm okay.
Good morning, Board. Name's Don Caballero. I've been a resident of Madera for most of my life, born and raised here. And I'm entering a new chapter in my life, and I'm going to be leaving Madera within the next few days, heading down to San Diego. Been given a great opportunity as director for Prison Fellowship, the largest prison ministry in the world and the largest nonprofit Christian ministry in the United States. But before I left, I wanted to come and I wanted to thank the board. And I wanted to thank the board for the work that they're helping to do inside Madera County Department of Corrections. Over the course of my years, I've had an opportunity to enter into seminary. I have a master's degree. I have a certificate through Wheaton College in correctional ministry with an emphasis as a reentry specialist. And I pastor. That's what I do today, but that hasn't always been the case. For much of my young life, I was in and out of jail, in and out of prison. And there came a point in my life where I finally had to make some serious decisions. And because of the support that I had with the chaplaincy in Madera, at Madera DOC, with some of the programs that they had while I was in custody, it was pivotal in helping to change the trajectory of my life. Since then, I've been asked, and I helped develop the program that's being used currently inside custody, and I've had an opportunity to go throughout California and parts of the United States, and they're always asking about Little Madera County and the CCTP program that they have in custody and the outcomes. So since then, I've opened a transitional living home. I work directly with men who are being released from the CCTP program. We've been in existence for 5 years. We have a great recidivism rate, and we have been working with the previously incarcerated, and their families for the last 5 years. And a big part of that is because of the support that you guys give to Madera County Department of Corrections. So I just want to thank you. I want to thank God for the opportunities He's given me. And I am just one. I am one person whose life has been changed. So I just want you to know that. It's not, I think many times we always hear the negative. We don't hear a lot of the positive. Right. But I'm just one of the positives. I am who I am today, and a big part of that is because of the work that you guys do. And I appreciate that.
Thank you, Don.
Yes, Roger.
I just wanted to say, I've watched you in your journey. I've known you a long time, and
Yes.
I know Jerry would say this too today, Jerry King, because he's been part of your life as
Yes,
well.
absolutely.
We're proud of you, man. Yeah, very proud of you. Keep up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Board. I will leave my badge on this time. Just
Hold
wanted
your
to
hand
share, just wanted to share with you that it's about time for those folks who would like to become members of the grand jury to submit their application/questionnaire. The new jury will be sworn in right around the end of June, the beginning of July, depending upon where the 1st of July starts. It's a year-long commitment. It's purely voluntary. You won't be receiving any type of dollars, whether they're big or small. And it's a great opportunity to see the inner workings of the county, city governments, and all the public agencies. So if you know of anybody who would like to have the opportunity to serve, please have them either go on the website or, much easier, just pick up the phone and dial the jury commissioner. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
For serving on it, too. Again.
You come on up. Thank you.
Good morning. Christina Beckstead, Madera County Farm Bureau. This morning I wanted to take a moment to let the Board of Supervisors know and the county know that about a week ago or a week and a half ago, Madera County Farm Bureau awarded $48,000 in scholarships this year to 11 students, and I'd like to go through them briefly. So the first scholarship we have is the Franklin Sakara Scholarship. It's $1,500 for 4 years, totaling $6,000, and that went to Kylie Farmer of Chowchilla High School. She's majoring in ag communications at Texas Tech. The Tessie Family Scholarship is also $1,500 a year for 4 years, totaling $6,000, and that was awarded to Jaden Krotoff, Madera South High School, majoring in agriculture business at Cal State Fresno. And then we awarded scholarships, let's see, $1,000 for 4 years for $4,000 to the progeny of agricultural laborers. That went to Paula Ramirez from Chowchilla High School, intending to major in ag trade marketing after completing her AA at Merced Community College. And Gilbert Ortega, Madera South High School, intending to become a certified diesel mechanic after completing certification at Reedley Community College. We also awarded several Farm Bureau scholarships in the amount of $1,000 per year for 4 years, and those went to Dylan Basila of Minarets High School, majoring as pre-vet after completing his AA degree at Blinn College, Texas. Reagan Fringer from Minarets High School, intending to major in Ag Com after completing her AA at Illinois Central College in Illinois. Caitlin Linderholm, Minarets High School, majoring in Ag Education at Cal State Fresno. Hannah Mancebo, Chowchilla High School, majoring in Dairy Science at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Sierra Pafford, Minarets High School, intending to major in agricultural business after completing her AA at Madera Community College. Michael Resendez, Minarets High School, intending to major in livestock nutrition and chemistry after completing his AA at Blinn College, Texas. And Kyle Shepard, Minarets High School, majoring in Ag Systems Management at Cal State Fresno.
Wow.
So $48,000 was awarded this year. Last year we awarded $65,000. And every year this is because of the community that we live in and all of our help and support from all of our farmers, the community, and everyone around. This is made possible with one event that we do each year, and that's our wine tasting. This year it's themed Cinco de Vino, and it will be held on Cinco de Mayo at Peters Brothers Nursery. So if anyone would like to attend, we have tickets at the Farm Bureau.
It's always that's my birthday weekend always, so.
Come celebrate with us.
Appreciate it. Well,
Thank you.
Great job.
Christina, that's great.
I'll be there.
Mr. J, how are you?
Doing wonderful this almost like fall-like day. So, Board, appreciate being able to take a few minutes in front of you today to introduce our 3 newest deputy sheriffs. This was the result of about a 1-year process working with Adrian and Susan at HR to get the Cadet 2 program up and running, and they were great to work with. Their academy scholarships were paid for by the Sheriff's Foundation through money that was granted to them from Vulcan Materials. So just real briefly, we have 3 young men with us today in alphabetical order. We'll start with Michael Lewis. Michael's a Madera guy. He owned a local business, the grocery outlet there on Cleveland, and then lost his mind and decided he wanted to go into law enforcement. And we were happy to have him come on board. Michael did particularly well in the academy, particularly in the scenario trading. His scores were quite high.
Catching shoplifters, might as well catch them for a living.
That, and he's already community-minded. He was very helpful to us for the last 3 years around the holiday time when we identify families in need. His store was extremely generous in donating both food and toys for kids during those drives. Next is Andre Pena. Andre lives in Clovis and worked as a civilian for the Clovis PD. He's a family man, and he is the #1 scorer in the academic side of the academy for this academy class. So that is Andre, and we're very excited to have him on board with us as well. And then lastly is Jonathan Rodriguez. Jonathan is from the Kerman area. He's recently discharged from the U.S. Army, which I realize probably isn't that recently now because he discharged before we started, I think, and that was almost a year ago. But that was where he came from to us. He's related to Corporal Rodriguez, so we now have A-Rod and J-Rod working for us. So I guess next would be J-Lo, right? So, and Jonathan was your #1 overall all-around Academy cadet for this Academy class. So, Board, I just want to introduce you to them this morning.
Congratulations.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I had one of those in my family. My oldest son was all around, and he worked for Jay as well. So good.
I was in Idaho.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Welcome to Madera County. Would you take him away in the pink shirt? He's harassing us up here all morning.
Makes you feel good to see people coming in on board to protect the public, to serve the public. Really is a thankless job, and we need those people in our world today. So, thank you.
Is there any other public comment at this time?
I had one, if you don't mind.
Please.
I'm on the San Joaquin Air Pollution Board, and last week we approved another program for replacing your lawnmowers, edgers, trimmers, chainsaws, and pole saws. And it's almost at least over 50% of whatever you have to pay for them. You just got to go sign up, and it's for electric power things.
Battery operator?
Yeah, they're battery operated. You don't have to have a cord. And they one lawnmower puts out as much air pollution as 12 cars. So it's a good thing to take advantage of. We got the money there, so go
You
get
have
it.
to recharge it 3 times while you're mowing your lawn.
Well, they say these new ones are so much
I know
more
they
powerful,
do. They
they're
do a
not
good
that
job. I'm
bad.
sorry.
So I said the same thing, but they said they're a lot better now. So if they can run a chainsaw, I haven't seen one yet, so I got to try one.
Yeah.
And the second thing, I just wanted to thank our board. I got this quarterly newspaper from the Eastern Madera County SPCA, and I'll just read part of the first paragraph. The Board of Supervisors, at our request, is donating the entire 75.33 acre parcel that borders Highway 49 to their new SPCA building that they're building, that they raised over $3 million. All, no grants, no nothing, just donations to build it. And they just wanted to thank us, and they made it put us in the thing. So thank you guys again, and it's going to be a great program. And then the last thing is I announced it up at Oakhurst last week, but on April 1st, a judge in San Francisco ruled strike down the California gun law that they put in place on magazines and things. So the good guys win one. So I just wanted to make that announcement. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Tom. With that, I'll call close to the public comment portion, and we'll come back to consent calendar. Are there any items that a member of the board or Tom wants to pull? Oh, Supervisor Wheeler.
Yeah, thank you. First, that John, did he leave? He did, didn't he? We've since I've been on the board, we've improved our jail system so much. Oh, item C, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Item C, we went out, we struck our necks out back then, and the state offered us, I think it was like $60 million each county if they wanted to build a new facility and give them land for their new training jails they were going to build, which they never did. So we stuck our necks out, only one of 3 counties that did it. And now, since we've been doing such a great job of doing that, we just got awarded again, $19 million. We're approving it today under Senate Bill 1022. And it's 20 more beds at our new jail. And we only had to come up with a 5% match. And I just wanted to thank our staff and the correction staff. Those guys, they're out hustling for us. And you can see what we get from Mr. John Cabello. How do you say it? Yeah. And that's kind of results we get for being progressive and going out and doing these kind of things. So that was on item C. I just, I'd like.
What does that bring the total for the grant sub for?
Oh, it has to be
these
over
projects? It's close to 100 million?
We're getting close to 100 million.
Yeah, it's got to be $100 million. So we got the money for the laundry and that room, and so how much is it?
It was 30 million for our phase 1, so that was with the new housing units, L&M, and then it was like 3 or 5 million for the kitchen, and then a 19 million here for the expansion on our L&M housing unit.
It was so funny when we had the ribbon cutting for that new expansion, first one, there was 3 or 4 counties from other people from other counties saying, man, we should have done that too. We actually tried to partner with Fresno counties to do one of these together. and they said, we don't want no part of it. But when we got it, and they didn't, then they were saying, how come we didn't do it? Dummies.
And they were hitting the headlines for all their.
Oh, they're overcrowding and everything,
And,
so.
yeah, there's overcrowding, our recidivation rates are lower.
Right.
We're investing in it, not just in the buildings, but the programs in there to
Help 'em.
to help
back
reduce
to
that
the real
recidivism and
society.
actually create a reentry into society that allows them to be active members of society.
Then item D,
Oh, Maria?
Just
Oh,
briefly,
oh,
sorry,
I'm sorry.
Chairman, if I may. On the matchings, I just want to say that's the Community Correction Partnership was gracious enough
So it
to
wasn't
supply
on the
that,
general fund.
the matching funds for us.
so see, it's nothing on our agenda, but, I mean, it's just been a win-win situation
Can't
for us.
lose to that at all.
No.
Thank you. So what's the next one, Tom?
Just item D, I just wanted to kind of thank those two unions for finally coming to their senses and approving the offer. We gave all the other 11, all 13 of them, that 11 of them signed it back when, and so they finally signed it. So I just wanted to say
Yeah, we
thank
appreciate
you, and even though they lost a month of the raise, so
We
the rest of
appreciate
them all
the
got it.
employees,
Thank you anyway, so that's it.
All right, anybody else? Seeing none, is there any public comment regarding the consent calendar? Seeing none, I'll call
I
close.
move to approve.
Second.
It ain't working. I'm pushing it 5 times. Oh, I did it.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes, and it already said yes for me as soon as it
Yeah.
came up.
There was
so-
no option.
Vote passes 5-0.
Checked for you, huh?
Only
Just
two
check,
voted.
but- Okay, now we got it. All right, public session.
Public session, Public Health Department, presentation of plaques recognizing one staff member and two community members as winners of the 2019 Public Health Champion Award.
And the public health parade just keeps on marching on. for
Right
Public
on.
Health Month.
Yep.
We love it.
Well, we want National Public Week to be National Public Health Month and the
That's what
National
we call it, month,
Public
yeah.
Health Year, right?
Year.
In Madera County, we're just going to get better and better.
Century.
All right, so if we could transition to the PowerPoint.
This was like a PowerPoint I would have made. I'm an I.
Yeah. You're a high eye.
Very
So
cool.
IT's going to have to come down.
Okay.
Come on down, Jay.
I want you to be able to see this because our staff has taken a lot of time to create some templates that fit with our branding for Madera County. And we always start with a wonderful visual that was created by our former accreditation coordinator, Jose Arizola, that kind of highlights our vision, mission, and our guiding principles. And we include this in every presentation that we provide so that people know what we're about. Let me just move forward and tell you why I'm here today. I'm here to present what will be annual awards for public health champions. And a public health champion is a Department of Public Health employee, an employee team, or an external partner who has made a significant contribution to the department's public health mission, which is to lead, protect, and empower over the last year. And so we have 3 different awards that we're going to be giving out today. This is the first time that we're doing this, but of course we're wanting to do it every year. Nomination forms were sent out to department staff in February or March of this year. And based on their nominations, our executive team selected these 3 to receive awards.
I heard something.
Oh,
There it is. Hey. PowerPoint right there.
There we go.
Boom, you're
Leading,
gone.
protecting, and empowering. I mean, that is.
Leave, yeah, empower. We got the power turned on.
Good advertising, Rob.
All right, so there's that beautiful visual I was talking about, and we have this up all over our department so that the employees are really grounded in what it is that we embody and what we want to do every day to
actually get to that vision. So our first award, that's the description of the award I went through, it goes to Claudia Morales Bray. And Claudia, could you join us at the front here?
Yeah, Claudia.
Claudia was nominated by colleague Desiree Ornelas, she's busy filming in that bright blue sweater right there. Come on forward, Claudia, and join me. So Claudia works in our medical therapy program, and that's located at Norman Gold School in Madera, and the medical therapy program provides occupational and physical therapy service for children medically eligible that are from birth to age 21. So these are kids with severe illnesses that need a lot of intensive care. And I want to read what it was that Desiree put in her nomination. She goes beyond her call of duty. I have seen her in action plenty of times with parents who would come in and bring the child's walker, shoes, wheelchair in with issues, and there she goes, trying to engineer some contraption to solve the child's issue. She has sewn straps on shoes to fit children and bought the child's shoes. She's made Velcro straps for wheelchairs and made a headrest more comfortable. She's made pocket holders for walkers, and this is not in her duties. She takes her work home, and with her kind soul, she does it. And so it is my honor to award you a Public Health Champion Award for 2019.
Wow.
Well, I just want to say for anyone that does this kind of job, do it for the love of the passion of what you love doing, because you're doing this for yourself. And because you're getting a great pleasure of helping somebody else that is there because they need you, not because they want to be there, and because they've been put in a position that they were born like that. Right. So just when you do something, do it because you really want to do it for yourself by helping somebody else. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We will. I'm not letting her run away. We'll get a photo. Good. I learned that last week when I about ran away and you pulled me back to take a picture of the proclamation. All right, so our second award goes to the notorious Donald Hawley.
Now we know why you wore pink, man. You're the man. You're the man.
That's right. So nominated by Alan Gilmore, our program manager in community wellness. Mr. Hawley has worked hand in hand with Community Wellness Section of Madera County Department of Public Health for years. Thank you. All right, there he is. Look at that mug. All right, Mr. Hawley has served as the chair for Madera County Tobacco Coalition since 2014, and in his role, he facilitates the meetings, attends events, and garners and supports policies intended to advance tobacco control efforts. One initiative he currently is working on in Tobacco Coalition is a pursuit of a smoke-free parks policy for the city of Madera. In addition to tobacco prevention, Mr. Hawley is visible in the community, supporting events such as Walk to School Day year after year. And for many years, Mr. Hawley has served the mission of the Department of Public Health. And so it's my honor to award you a 2019 Public Health Champion Award. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, sometimes, after you get an award all the time, you think you know everything. But this is a great honor, and I really appreciate the award. And I thank my friends and families and my city colleagues for being here to see me receive this award. And as you know, I presented myself to you, Board of Supervisors, for a long time. And I still love to see y'all smiling faces. So I'm glad we're partnerships as one. But this is awesome. And so to give you some great news while I'm up here, our city ordinance for our Tobacco Coalition is going to be presented around the 1st of May, if I'm not mistaken, to the board. So I'd like to thank our city manager back there, Mr. Arnaldo Rodriguez. He came on board and started putting things together, and I just want to give him his gratitude like nobody does. So I just want you, council supervisors, to know that he's a good man, and when he comes to you, don't tell him no. So thanks again.
Vice versa.
I have my wife back there, my daughter, so they came and to watch me receive this award. So thanks again for all you've done, and thanks, Sarah, and Alan, thanks for thinking about me. So it had to have been you and all the team, so I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And I know it doesn't have it on here, and it's not going on anymore, but the Jesse Owens games, how long did that last?
28 years.
28 years, and so you were teaching kids a long time that public health has done in the parks and, yeah, to the big brothers, big sisters.
Well, also to the NAACP, I go to 4 different schools. I have 20 kids that I mentor every week. Besides the big brothers, big sisters, I still do that. So I just can't sit down when it comes to kids and find out how safely we can, and working with tobacco control helps us to make it safer for kids when they go out in parks and don't have to smell smoke, or in your neighbor's house who wants to smoke. And the smoke goes up to that room that kids going to inhale that. So we got a lot of work to do. So thank you. All y'all can get on board and help out, you know. Don't say no when they come ask you.
All right, so our third award goes to Mr. James Maxwell. Will you join me? James was nominated by Juana Soto, who is a public health education assistant with our Child Health and Disabilities Prevention Program. And CHDP is a preventative program that delivers periodic health assessments and services to low-income children and youth in California. And Mr. Maxwell, this is from Juana's nomination form, Mr. Maxwell has opened doors to their training center, to the Department of Public Health and Safe Kids Central California to conduct child safety, passenger safety, and water safety classes, and CHDP in services to his employees, families, and community members. AgriLand's goal is to improve the community by contributing in ways that enrich the lives of people residing in this area, and he's making a difference in the lives of Madeirans, especially to his employees and their families, by providing assistance, resources, and education for their safety and healthy lifestyle. And so he has provided this training resource, but he also serves and collaborates with various community organizations, including Department of Public Health, Camarena Health, Migrant Head Start, Safe Kids Health Central California, Madera Unified School Districts, and volunteers at Valley Children's Hospital. So it is my honor to provide you with a 2019 Public Health Champion Award.
Thank you very much. We appreciate all that the board's doing to improve the lives of those living in Madera County. We share that commitment, and if you become aware of things that we can do to be of further assistance, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim, we're going to get a picture of all.
You know, when a lot of times you hear corporate responsibility and taking care of employees, and it's usually a buzzword, but the more you get to know Jim and see truly the love that he has for his employees and the community that he operates in, you see corporate responsibility truly in action and what it can be. And by doing that, you're not losing, you're gaining. And so thank you for leading by example in regards to that. Appreciate it. Now we're going to come down and take a picture and take credit for all of their good work.
I hope I don't stand out.
All right, congratulations. All right.
Get my bright side.
It's always one of the good parts of our job, I'll tell you. Makes our job easier also.
Well, if you want somebody to emulate, there were just three right there in front of you that really, really do a lot for the community. It's awesome.
Oh, everyone wasn't here to hear our meeting? Feels so ineffectual.
Going back to work, man.
Yeah.
Do some more good stuff.
All right, we'll wait as it filters out to go to the next one. We'll have to wait until Donald leaves so that it'll be quiet in here. Told you. All right, we'll move on to 6B.
6B, Board of Directors, Special Districts, County Service Area Number 22C, Gunner Ranch West, Public Works Department, Engineering Services Division. Discussion and consideration to adopt a resolution formally appointing the initial members of CSA 22C Municipal Advisory Council for County Service Area 22C.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Ahmad Al-Kayat, Public Works Director. In July of 2014, your board adopted a resolution establishing a zone of benefit within the existing County Service Area 22, and we called it CSA 22C. Also, the resolution also established the CSA 22C Municipal Advisory Council, or the MAC. The primary function of the MAC is to advise the county on such matters related to the acquisition and construction of infrastructure and the provisions of services by CSA 22C. And we are here today for your consideration of approval of a resolution formally appointing the initial members of the CSA 22C, or the MAC, for County Service Area 22C as outlined in the resolution. And we're here for any questions.
Are there any questions? All right, any public comment regarding this item?
Chairman, board members, Jeff Reed on behalf of Gunner Ranch West. We appreciate your consideration for this matter, and it's going to be a very helpful step as we are moving forward with more active development in the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll call it close to the public comment, bring it back to the board for action.
Chairman, one item, just a comment from me. This is,
sorry.
that's okay. This will be a Brown Act committee because your board is appointing this advisory committee. The only exception when you make an appointment is an ad hoc committee, and you would all have to be members of that. And so I just wanted to make it clear that they will be subject to the Brown Act.
So public meetings, Brown Act, no.
Yes.
Good,
Thank
that's
you.
good to know. They should know that too. Maybe we ought to have a side letter to each one of them that they know that when they
Director
sign
Al
on.
Kayat and I had a discussion, and so he's aware, and just wanted to
Right.
make the formal.
But I think it'd still be good to send them a letter, all this. I read the name, there's one from Valley Children's and the other one, just a note, so they know, because you don't want to be surprised when you might not want to be on it, so.
Okay. All right.
I'll make motion for approval.
We have a motion.
Second? Oh, Max seconded.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
All right. 6C.
6C, Board of Directors, Groundwater Sustainability Agency for the Madera, Chowchilla, and Delta Mendota Subbasins Water and Natural Resources Department. Groundwater Sustainability Plan update. Updates on Madera Subbasin, Chowchilla Subbasin, and Mendota Subbasin, Delta Mendota Subbasin.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Stephanie Anagnuson, Director of Water and Natural Resources, with your monthly update. So briefly, we're going to talk about the American Water Works Association Sustainable Water Management Conference in Arizona. We'll talk about outreach for the groundwater sustainability plans. I'll give you the status of those plans. We will go over briefly allocations and credits. This is just a briefing that will also go to the advisory committee on Friday, and then some other news and next meeting dates. So I wanted to tell you, as I've been doing, about some good work done in groundwater sustainability in other parts of the country. So I went to a conference a week and a half ago in Tucson, and just to give you a sense of Tucson, we know it's hot and dry. They're also at less than 12 inches of rain. They are in the Sonora Desert, and Tucson Water as an entity serves 750,000 people. So we went out to the Southern Abra Valley Storage and Recovery Project. And basically, this is a really good example of long-term water resources planning and how we plan for long-term in terms of 30 to 50 years. So in the 1940s, Southern Arizona had a serious overdraft problem. And although we think of it as hot and dry, they are and were farming alfalfa and cotton. So they had overdraft in the 1940s, including subsidence, so similar to what we have going on here. In the 60s and 70s, the city of Tucson purchased 22,000 acres of ag land. That was land with cotton or alfalfa, and they essentially purchased it to take it out of production and to do recharge on that. So they now own that land. In the 2000s, they started a recharge and recovery project, taking water from the Central Arizona Project, which is Colorado River water, and using that for recharge in 22,000 acres of recharge basins. So what they've been able to do is take groundwater levels that were 300 to 400 feet below and bring that to basically 150 to 200. So a serious effort, very long-term planning, and great results. Here's a photo of one of the basins. This is a 40-acre basin. So you can see from where the inlet is, it just goes as far as the eye can see. Their principles for water conservation include living within your means, diversifying and having multiple sources of water. They have groundwater, but they also have surface water. They have storm water. And recycled water, so 4 different sources. They also seek partnerships where there's win-win opportunities. They look for critical decision points, and I know we have one coming up with the adoption of the Groundwater Sustainability Plan, and then they pay close attention to groundwater quality. I wanted to give you a little insight into the maintenance of the facilities because we've had a lot of people talking about how they might maintain a facility. And one benefit of a municipality owning the facility is you can pay attention to the maintenance. So as you can see, looking at the slide, there's a bunch of mud cracks there. And it turns out what the Colorado River water does is it comes with a little bit of algae, and you'll get an algal mat that will grow over the bottom of the basin, and that will essentially prevent percolation, as well as silt. So what they have is 3 steps. They rake the basin every year with large equipment that looks like ag equipment, actually. Then they rip it every 1 to 3 years, and then they turn over the top 3 to 5 feet every 5 years. So it's a serious maintenance investment. It's not a dig it and leave it alone type of thing. They also do some amazing things with this SCADA system, which is like people use for potable water, where you can monitor water levels in different places to minimize evaporation. In the summer, they will do deeper ponds, so less surface area, and in the winter they do lots of shallow ponds when evaporation's at its least. So Tucson really provided a good example for where we could be in 50 years with planning.
I'm sure you saw the video in LA where to lower the amount of evaporation, they dunked all those
Plastic balls.
Oh, the little black balls, yeah, and they were trying to prevent a photochemical reaction too, I think involving benzene. Yeah, I don't know that we have to go as far as the little black balls.
It was a
But I mean,
fun
this-
video if you want to watch it.
That is what, I mean, people who work in water are thinking about these things, so we can look to other places for examples. So in terms of outreach, we've done 2 pop-up events with Self-Help and Leadership Council. We haven't had a ton of people interacting with us, though, so we're going to try the swap meet is our next place. We've had giveaways from Madera Irrigation District and the city, so we have something we're offering people in exchange for them talking to us. And I was asked to talk at the GSA conference in Fresno. It's the 2nd annual one at the beginning of June about water markets. So I will be doing some kind of greater outreach there as well. In terms of the status of our groundwater sustainability plans, they're all pretty much running on the same track, which is to say we will have complete drafts at the end of July for the Madera, Chowchilla, and Delta Mendota GSP. That's where we're with the exchange contractors. And in Madera, we are releasing 1 chapter at a time. So chapter 1 is out there and we're receiving public comment on it. We're going to set up a generic sort of a Madera GSP comment at maderacounty.com so that we can take people's comments that way. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the material that the advisory committee is going to see on Friday so that you've previewed it. We have 2 definitions, and these are important to separate from one another, allocation and credit. So the allocation is the amount of water that's provided annually to lands within the GSA. And there's 2 parts to that. One is the native groundwater piece, and that we've talked about is preliminarily about 0.5 acre feet per acre. But we are looking at some way of allocating additional water so that people are ramping down at that 2% we discussed last month. And that's essentially an allocation of what we're calling existing stored groundwater. This is groundwater that's in the ground, but that we are presumably mining in order to transition the economy. So the allocation has 2 pieces, the native groundwater and the additional allocation. And then there's a credit. So I'm seeing people swap the word credit for allocation and vice versa. So that's why we're talking about this. The credit is the amount of water or money that would be received by an individual given by the GSA because you were doing something that benefited the GSA. So here are the questions we're going to discuss on Friday. The first one is, how should the allocations of what we're calling existing stored groundwater be allocated? Would you give it to all acres, only irrigated acres? Would all the lands receive the same allocation, or would you give the higher water using crops more of an allocation? Or is there some other approach? For each allocation, we would then need to establish parcel by parcel accounting. Would we have the allocation have to be used that year, or could you carry it forward for multiple years? When we did water markets and had that discussion, most people wanted to carry their allocation forward. And it also came up at the last advisory committee. Some people wanted the allocation all up front. So they wanted like a 5-year allocation. They would use it all at one time. Typically in water management, things decay or they sunset over time. So what is a full allocation today would not necessarily be full next year. You're losing something to the basin. And then would we allow the allocation to pre-tradable? There's a lot of interest in water markets and we have that grant, but would we allow the native groundwater to be traded or just the existing stored water?
If you were to trade or sell, someone would buy your water right in a very wet year and then use it in a dry year, that could be problematic.
Yes, I think that could be. So to be clear, you're buying the allocation, not necessarily the right, because you retain that as the landowner. But if you were to buy it and then carry it over so that we were all pumping more seriously during the drought, that would have probably more undesirable results in terms of groundwater levels. So the credits discussion is similar. At the advisory committee last month, we talked through this, and folks wanted a credit for doing something that helped the subbasin, like installing some sort of infrastructure. I have some concerns that if we give credits for infrastructure without new water, that we run the risk of giving a lot of credits without bringing in new water, which is really the primary concern. So we're going to discuss that a little bit more in the advisory committee on Friday. I'd also recommend that we get some sort of nonpartisan entity involved in terms of evaluating the credits. Pajaro Valley uses UC Santa Cruz. They have hydrogeologists there who do this as their project. So that's probably, and there's some parallels here with Fresno State. We could try that. So that's kind of the briefing on those. Are there any questions?
I had a thought on the, when a person does a project and wants credit, credit shouldn't be based on the project, it should be based on verifiable recharge.
Yeah.
And that would preclude the problem of everybody that has a project.
Yeah, I've heard we should get credits for money spent, and I said I'd rather you get credits for water recharged. That's the only thing. I don't care if the project cost $1 and you get 100 acre feet recharged, you should get whatever the percentage of that 100 acre feet is. If your project cost $1 million, and you did that same 100, you should get this. You shouldn't get any extra credit just because you spent more money. So I think it's important that it's about the water that's coming in, not the money being spent. The money isn't going to get to that sustainable levels.
I think one of the best examples of that is the Triangle T situation, where they recharge 60,000 acre feet on 600 acres of ground that really isn't a basin, it's just ground, and the continual pumping of water onto that ground. Now, they've done some projects related to that, but that particular recharging was just water being put on farm ground, and any farmer can do that. And if they recharge like that, they should receive some credit for recharging.
Agreed. So let me tell you the other news. We do have a survey I mentioned last month that comes from a researcher with the UC Davis affiliation. That's going out to everybody who farms based on a Farm Bureau list. And it's going to ask them about their awareness of the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. So this is very useful to us and will help us target our outreach further, and was done at no cost to the county. And some good news in terms of Ellis Basin. We are currently moving water from one of MID's canals with their permission. We have an MOU over to Ellis Basin. So I'll bring back the results. We have a flow meter, so we'll have a gauge of how much we're able to move in a month. But good news there. So we rented a pump from Rain for Rent in order to do that. And then we have 3 RFQs, the groundwater monitoring well installation. Jeannie Hobbin, Deputy Director for Water and Natural Resources, will bring that to you next week. We have a water market strategy grant where we needed a consultant to do outreach and help develop a white paper with rules for a water market, and we're still in the selection process there. And we do have a rate consultant who was responsive and responsible, who responded to our RFQ. And that would be for the regulatory fee that is exempt from Prop 26 that the GSA can charge for administration and for planning studies to get recharge in place. And then our next meeting date for members of the public is the advisory committee this Friday, and that group has grown sufficiently that we'll be in this space at 2 o'clock here. So this concludes my presentation. I'd be glad to take your questions.
Do you have any comment or maybe an update for the board on, or you could at another time, the federal lawsuit concerning the water grab from the Water Resources Control Board of the state of California, and,
Sure.
and what potential impacts might be on that?
I don't know that there's direct impacts to Madera County, but it is interesting to watch. Essentially, the Trump administration has sued the State Water Resources Control Board over the proposed rule that would allow, that would make more water be left in the streams. And basically the feds are saying, hey, we manage these reservoirs too, in particular New Melones, and you're impacting us. So it's sort of a state versus the feds thing, which may go on for years.
The model of that could eventually affect what's going on from a federally operated facility like Bryant, and could have an impact on Madera County directly as a result of that. Is that not true?
I'm not sure what the impact would be there.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Right,
it
exactly.
could eventually have a filter effect.
Yeah, it's a federal agency, right? And those are federal facilities. Yeah.
And we have a good relationship with the BRA right now. So.
Mm-hmm. We do.
Thank you so much. You
Thank
do
you.
an outstanding job. I can't just,
She is.
Thank
I can
Public
hardly
comment?
believe it. It's amazing.
I can see one's lined up. Two are lined up.
Christina Beckstead, Madera County Farm Bureau. I just wanted to take a moment to thank Stephanie for all of her efforts and the county for all of the efforts that have been going forward on SGMA. I think it's been a great, almost a year now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, almost a year. So there's been a lot of progress. There is a lot more public engagement, and I think everyone is appreciative of that. And I'd also like to take a moment, if I could, to share a compliment that was given to Stephanie that I was included in. This person reached out to me and then decided to send us an email, so I'd like to read it to you. This is from Jeff Vanden Heuvel, Milk Producers Council. Stephanie, I just wanted to drop you a note to compliment you on the terrific job you're doing for the people of Madera County. You were given a virtually impossible task of heading up the SGMA implementation from scratch with very difficult facts and almost no help. Your professionalism, but also your wonderful personality and the way you skillfully interact with folks keeps everyone moving in the same direction. So a big thank you and best wishes for continued success as we all move forward into this brave and uncharted new world of SGMA. All the best, Jeff Vanden Heuvel, Milk Producers.
Thank you,
That's
man.
awesome.
Amazing.
Kudos needed to be given, so.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
I couldn't
Christine.
agree more.
Hi, gentlemen. Albert Gravich, Capstone Ranch. Just had a quick observation in regards to the credits for recharge, the comments made earlier. Many growers in the county, as you may be aware of, have no access to surface water to recharge. Many of us are willing to invest in infrastructure for recharge. It's just we're dependent on groundwater. So I think the overarching issue is we have to be sure to be considerate to the people who are in this situation that are willing to be part of the solution, but simply don't have access to water to recharge. Thank you.
What was your last name, sir?
Gravage, G-U-R-A-V-A-G-E.
G-U-R?
A-V-A-G-E.
Thank
Works
you.
for some very good friends of mine and great operators in every way.
And what ranch is it?
Sloop family, Capstone
Oh,
Dairies.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And part of what we're going to be looking at doing is trying to build out the conveyance systems and things like that, and buying into larger projects that allow
Right.
for that. Is that correct?
That's a good point. I think this is one place where a municipality, a county can really step in and provide that infrastructure so that people don't have to build their own pipeline.
Yeah, because
Exactly.
Norm Allender used to say that the county were the agency of last resort, right? That's why we got all of the white areas
Right.
called in SGMA, is the places and the ranches that are productive, that are important to our economy, are all within our GSA, and so we need to make sure that we're able to either deliver that water or find some way to allow through projects for them to continue to farm
And the other reason the county should build infrastructure is so that we don't have 10 pipelines going the same distance, right? That
Exactly.
doesn't make any sense.
Right. And I think enlarging our conveyance systems too, we've discussed that as part of the solution for this, because when we get these large events where, as an example this year, we have a large amount of water coming through the system and no place to put it and no way to get it there fast enough. I mean, we put it as where we can as we have opportunity, but if we had larger conveyance system and these recharge facilities in place and could get it into those wide areas, we could be slamming the ground with water right now everywhere. And that should be our highest priority, absolutely the highest priority.
They
aside
took the
from
bull
building
by,
it
yeah,
in.
they took the bull by the horn and got that water into the Ellis Basin, so, I mean, we haven't done that for years, so.
We've taken the surface water allotments that were given based on the contract, the 200
Right,
acre
that we can't do it
contract
with.
that we never did before.
Yeah.
And so
We just gotta keep that momentum.
I know a lot of people hate Sigma, but it's forcing us at this point to think about these things that we didn't do for years and years. And these are the things that if we would have done them 50 years ago, no one would be worried about any of this because we would have been already in a balanced state and being able to farm. So this is really something that will help the future generations of farmers and residents in Madera County and finally put us into a place where we're investing in infrastructure and we can look back when I'm old and gray and say, okay, maybe this wasn't like a terrible thing. It was hard to get through, but we've gotten to a place where we can actually sustain and grow. And like I've always said, farmers today are growing with less water than they were 20 years ago. And if anybody's going to figure out this problem, it's the American farmers. They will figure out how to grow food, which is why American agriculture is the best in the world, because they've always figured out, regardless of terrain, obstacles, soil types, water. I mean, for California and the West to be a desert and be the most fertile and productive lands in the world is because of the American farmer and how it is able to make do with the least amount you can. So I'm confident in them.
Max has got it first.
Max has the next one.
Go ahead.
Stephanie, are we running water into Madera Lake at this time?
I don't think we are.
Why not?
I'm not sure. I will check with Madera Irrigation
That
District.
should be being used right now.
Didn't Madera Lake be,
That's
wasn't
MID.
it was drawn into MID, and I think, I don't know if MID.
Well,
is
they're
or not.
recharging everything else.
MID is recharging through Madera Lake.
Are they?
Yeah,
Okay.
they continually do that. In fact, 2016, I think I believe, I want to say they put 20,000 acre feet in 2016 into that area, and they continue to do that. It naturally leaks.
I have
It
heard
looks like
that.
there's nothing in it because it leaks so well.
We toured that, I believe you, who toured that with me? Is that you? I toured it not too long ago with
Really?
manager.
Oh,
Tommy
Gracie.
Gracie. And learned all about that, the face of that area. We'd love to expand it, but it's a wildlife habitat as well. There's a lot of environmental issues with trying to expand that. But it's it's like Leaky Acres out there. It's really good. I had a question.
Yeah.
And I should punch in. I tried several times. It didn't do it. Are we making any headway with state agencies on, as an example, along Highway 99, Dutchman Creek? If we had an opportunity to take, I know that thing is full most every year. It's up to the brimming, and you got all those recharge basins along 99. If they could let some of that water out into those recharge basins, that would have a pronounced effect on groundwater. And I just don't see any cooperation from state agencies on these really simple issues. Any change in that?
There is some change. The State Water Resources Control Board is supposed to release a streamlined water permit this spring. So essentially, in order for us to do that, we would have to do a temporary urgency permit, which
Right.
means filling out some engineering types of forms, and then we would need an actual water right. And they're supposed to streamline that form soon.
Yeah.
So I think that's good.
So their form will go from 40 pages to 20?
Yeah, that could comment on that.
And it's going to be released just in time when the flows dry up.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Kind of like the logging issue, right?
Yeah.
And then they'll say,
They're all
well,
dead
no one
and dying,
used it,
they-
so we'll just
Now you
take
can
it
do it.
back, and then we'll
Yeah.
get to the next time again. Yeah, it'll be-
Well, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Great
Let's
job.
let's keep punching them though. Keep pushing them.
About the good work.
Yeah.
All right, I'll call a close to the public comment portion. And this was just informational. Move to approve that Stephanie's doing a good job. Yeah.
Second.
Triple that.
All right, 6D.
6D, Community and Economic Development Department, Planning Division. Discussion and consideration to adopt a resolution approving a Madera County Economic Development Incentive Policy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt Treber, Community Economic Development Director, as well as Jamie Bax with me, my Deputy Director of Planning. So we do have, for the board's consideration today, a Madera County Economic Development Incentive Policy. And we do, the board may recall, we did have the Yosemite Hotel project. And that was, along with assistance from Supervisor Wheeler, kind of the impetus to let's look at this a little more detailed and make sure we have a clear framework on how we're addressing if we get proposals and how we move those through the process, which is what the board's got before them today. We do have a brief PowerPoint presentation that we'll go over currently. So the purpose of this policy would be to look to incentivize specific development projects that would meet the goals of this policy, which are growth of the private sector employment, increasing tax revenues to the county, diversifying the economic base of the county, enhancing global competitiveness, as well as extending and improving public infrastructure development as well. The objectives within this policy hit on, the fiscal, to go into a little more detail, promoting and encouraging private sector capital investment, the employment, stimulation and creation of new jobs within this county, and the diversification of the economy. We are heavily ag. We will continue to be heavily ag, but we're working to try to diversify that and get more industrial, more tech, more commercial, regional, medical type employment opportunities for our constituents. Workforce development as well, working within the existing county entities that have that, but expanding that as well. And a big one is the business expansion and retention, making sure we keep those businesses that we currently have here and allowing them for expansion and working with them where we can. And looking at key targeted investment areas, such as business industrial parks, to build those out and continue to work with those landowners to work for new businesses coming in there. The next slide talks about the eligibility and where the policy gears towards and kind of the highlights on where we would see this economic development policy geared towards the manufacturing type businesses, warehousing and distribution, health and wellness, our technology, transportation, telecommunications, the infrastructure again, ag industries, the tourism and hospitality industries, as well as new retail and wholesale possibilities. A keynote here, right, and I think it probably goes without saying, but not all new businesses or existing businesses are going to be eligible for this. And we'll kind of get into a little more specifics on how that would play out through this application process that would come to staff on that. So here's the next slide talks about some of the standards and requirements that would be required in order for staff to support and take this before the board for recommendation, right? We'd have to show a good, solid public benefit for any incentive that would be offered, an economic benefit, so not just the public well-being, but also an economic benefit to the county and the constituents. performance-based, so it'll have certain triggers that you have to meet, and there'll be annual reviews that'll be done. Necessary and appropriate entity and business for the county that we would see as a real benefit. Living wages, employment-based industry job creation, so we're not just talking about any specific jobs, but really living wages, affordable wages that would allow for people to, grow a family and stay here in the county. And also those businesses with new and emerging technology that changes on a regular basis. So the first step would be the county would receive an application for this economic incentive. And with that application, a detailed business plan would be required to be submitted that would lay out their construction schedule, the needs for the infrastructure of the project, total estimated project cost, estimated annual revenues, post-development value of the property, number of jobs created, and any other information that staff in the review of that would be determined that it's necessary for us to review that application. It would be our goal certainly to, when we get a complete application, to have staff's review in the first 60 days and a recommendation if it is moved forward for the board to consider that. So that's some key things there. One of the policies lays out a rating scale and how staff will review this. One of the key aspects is there'll be a full fiscal analysis that is done. We will typically hire an agency and an entity to prepare that fiscal analysis. That will all be at the cost of the applicant that's coming before, right, to lay out all of those specifics so that we have real good data to suggest before the board takes any consideration on an incentive. The big things, as we've kind of already laid about, right, new jobs is a big aspect that we're looking here, and the capital investment, and that it meets the policy priorities of new and retaining existing businesses and jobs. It does include, the policy lays out the application process. It's an initial deposit of $1,000 as the application fee, and then an initial deposit of $5,000, which will allow staff to then retain that financial consultant to go and do this detailed fiscal review. If that cost exceeds the $5,000, the applicant's required to deposit those monies. So the county's kept whole. There's no cost of the general fund or staff in processing these applications. A big aspect of this policy is the performance agreement that would be laid out and done and adopted by your board that would require the business, if they were to receive an incentive, they'd have to lay out, all of their compliance with any state, federal, county laws and regulations. It's going to have timely filings of reports to verify that, that economic generation and those jobs are being generated in order to continue to qualify for that economic incentive. There's also, kind of legalese or indemnity and hold harmless clauses so that a business couldn't, if they're not meeting their requirements under this policy, that they have no recourse to come after. So we are recommending approval by the board of this economic incentive policy. There is also new statute and law that came into effect in 2014 that also, based on the hotel incentive agreement we did a few months back, has the same requirements that will require every 5 years that a report be prepared and submitted to the board in a public hearing to lay out the business and how that incentive is working through the process. So absolutely, yes. So that concludes staff's presentation.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, I want to thank Eric and Regina and our staff here, Jamie and Matt and whoever else worked on it, because I know it's not done by one person. The team does it. After we did that hotel in Oakhurst about that incentive that we worked on that for Brett and I for over a year with our staff and bring that to us to approve. And then we went to that San Joaquin Valley Association. There's 8 counties that we meet once a year up in Stockton. We went to it, and darn if they didn't have, the city of Stockton had a policy that they had adopted, and they had all the businesses they have attracted with this. And so I asked that city manager to send it to me, and I gave it to Eric, and these guys have taken this and adopted it to fit our county. And this is, I mean, whoever was there, I think you were, heard that guy speak. It was, I mean, what they've done up there, and I think this will do for us, will bring in, help bring in some more business. I got another thing I'm going to introduce at the legislation that I want you guys to look at too to help us, I think. But we got to help make Madera County still the biggest little county in the state. And these little things that we do makes a big difference.
Yeah, I was going to make that same point too, that I know, Rob, you always have a great point is, why are we going to reinvent the wheel, or are we going to try and, or are we going to take something that's been tried and true and works and, you know, make it fit in here? And I think this is a great product, but it's because it was built on to another great product versus starting and saying, okay, let's see if this works, which is what we've done. Which is what we've done in the past, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
Let's just waive fees, because we heard one person say that if you waive fees, then all of a sudden,
We did that for 5.5 years.
Betty bar the door, like,
Gates will open.
and then it doesn't, and then, so you wasted some time. And so looking at what, and especially like with San Joaquin County, they've got Manteca, able to capitalize on the 120 going towards the Bay Area. Well, we have 152 here. It's very similar in terms of goods to market in the larger markets outside of here. So if it can work there, I believe it can work here. And so it was not only did you just go and choose one that was good, you chose one that is similar to what we have here. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Our transportation corridors in the region. And the other thing that I think goes without saying, right? This will be a living, breathing document. So
Absolutely.
You're correct. We didn't just throw a dart with our eyes closed at the dartboard. We did take something that has been successful and crafted it specifically for the county to provide that framework. But if it's not working or we see tweaks that need to be made, we'll be back before the board for those amendments. Absolutely.
And I liked that there was the inclusion of existing businesses, because those are the easiest for us to get more benefit from versus trying to get somebody, wait the amount of time it takes to get through the process, get them up and running while we have our businesses right here. And, you don't want to just plant a new flower and forget about all the other ones you have right over here, because now you got dead flowers and one nice pretty one. You don't want to do that. So, all right, Supervisor Rogers.
Yes, I thank you for that last statement too, Matt, about fluidity. I think it's important that we keep our mind open to change and what works. And that's what has made Madera County, kind of put us on the map in the business arena, is our unconventional approach to things, and our fluidity, our ability to adapt and overcome issues along the way. Not to fight a battle where there's no war, but I know that this was couched as in our last forum as cronyism. It was attacked. And I want to dispel that based on the fact that this is available to everybody, that anybody who wants to do apples to apples. And I love to have the policy in place, because apples to apples, you can do the same thing. If you have the apples to invest, you
come on in.
They bring it on, and that is a fact. And nothing is more free market than giving people back money that they earn. As far as I'm concerned, that encourages the free market. It's like a tax rebate. For those, and I know that those who couch this that way would say, getting a tax rebate's very American. Well, this is the same thing. And it is very free market. It is very, let me use the word Reagan-esque, who Ronald Reagan would have said, this is a great thing, giving people back, empowering them with their own money. That's not a bad idea. And this is not money we have. This is money that is future on the come, and nothing happens unless that future money comes in, and it's just rebated back to the person who is the entrepreneur in this case. So I think it's a good program. well-crafted policy that's fluid, and I'm proud of the work you've done.
Yeah, and I think points well taken, but also that public process, we were helping work through a good idea to bring in new business, and through that public process, I think we did realize that we needed to codify it, create a policy around it, and the delivery was terrible, but at the end of the day, we end up with a much better product that is easier to access, and we don't have to rethink it every single time. Right. We just have something that's there ready to go, and so like any good government, it's forged and made better through that public process.
Totally agree.
The sword, when it's being hammered after it got put in the fire, doesn't feel good, but
Yeah.
But at the end it's stronger. So,
right.
So we have Supervisor Poitras.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's really great that this policy is being presented and has been developed. And what I like about it is it has very objective types of tests that need to take place. I know that probably there's some detractors, that we hear about just because there have been times that government has provided economic incentives and it's been a disaster. It's been a loss for the jurisdiction, whether it's a county or a city. And I think about our friends to the south of us. There's several examples. Yes, but anyway, but I think that this review process, allows us to really dig in and see, okay, is this really going to be a good benefit to our citizens? Because again, we're dealing with taxpayer dollars. And then the other thing I think about, one of the primary goals of government or responsibilities is to provide infrastructure. And so I think that this, we're not very good at I wouldn't say we might be good at running businesses or do what businesses that are existing or what we're trying to attract, but we can clear the decks, make it easier for businesses to come in. And I think that this is a policy that is not a giveaway. It's something that makes economic sense and is for the benefit of everybody in our county.
I totally agree.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't get finished while ago. I mean, I thought some other things. One thing I asked Eric here while you guys were talking, where's Bobby Kahn here? I mean, this is a good handle.
I was going to make, he is having surgery this morning.
Well, you should have sent, one of the other people, because this is a great tool for them. I mean, when they go out and say, hey, look, this is what we got to help. And anyway, I wish you had sent somebody here to be here and maybe even comment on it, but he's not. And then, Rob, you're right. I mean, when people, like up at Oakhurst, when we passed, I had 3 or 4 people, even the TV station when they interviewed me, what do you think about losing those tax dollars? Well, I said, what's nothing of nothing? If we don't have this, what's nothing of nothing? Yeah. I mean, so whatever they generate, we're not losing. We're actually gaining those tax dollars that we have nothing right now. Yeah. So that's what I told them, and I said it on TV, and they actually put it on there when they did it, so I didn't think they would. But that's the way I look at it. What's nothing of nothing if we don't have it? And if it generates $1 million and they get a tax rebate of $500,000 and we get the other $500,000, that's $500,000. We got something. We can do something with whatever we have to, because it's
what they call them, win-win.
That's right. It's general fund dollars. So thank you, staff. Thank you, everybody. I've been, ever since we've done that with that hotel out there, I've been thinking about this, and now we're doing it rotation. So can't thank everybody enough.
Yeah. Again, in terms of the objective metrics, that's the important part, is to see, yes, is it working? Can you measure it? Does it make sense? And
fair and balanced.
And I think also, like, the way that we show it, we don't shy away from saying, this is what's in it for us, right? This is what is the benefit. We want you to be creating jobs for the people here, which then turns over that payroll turns over 6 times in our economy, that there is a public benefit, that we're not just giving this out because you've got a shiny penny and we want it. You know, it's
It does education too, since they get, 55% of all the property tax dollars.
right. So
they
needs to
really
be
get
that. But when we say public benefit, what do we mean? Because is it just everything below that is the public benefit, or that was the only one that I thought could be pretty subjective, and the public benefit is you no longer have an empty field, now you have a building.
What page is that on?
It's just standards and requirements.
Sure, and I can, get to that.
Oh, I see.
So are you looking at the PowerPoint or the actual policy document itself?
The PowerPoint.
Okay,
Page 5.
So I will say on page 5 of the policy, right, it does say that, and it kind of defines what the public benefit is. So if you'll bear with me, I'll read directly. It's very short. Incentive agreements shall provide a quantifiable direct public benefit to Madera County and its residents, which may include but not limited to workforce development and skills enhancements, housing affordability, public safety, infrastructure development, and educational opportunities.
Right there, hit it all.
Perfect.
And just one last thing from my standpoint, I'd be remiss if I didn't give the credit to the CAO and his office, who really did the heavy lifting on this process.
But you get to sit up and take credit for it. You're just like a supervisor. That's
No,
awesome.
I just gave it.
All right, CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It was a team effort. Everyone did their part. And I also wanted your board to know that Bobby Kahn did review this, and he was part of our review team. He wasn't able to attend today, but we also had our auditor controller review this document, and he let me know that he supported it as well. So,
It's a win-win. I mean, it's just.
Anyone from the public wishing to comment or take out an application?
Move to approve.
Seeing none, I'll call close to public comment.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Oh, wait, we've got our county council.
Oh.
Let's ask.
Chairman, members of the board, just in the policy and the resolution we created, at number 1, we said the Economic Development Incentive Police, and it should be policy, so you don't, that's a typographical error. We'll change it before the chairman signs it, if approved. I just wanted to note it for the record.
With my motion with the correction.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be police that were here. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, we're gonna. You must
think about
make
this.
money. All right. We still have a motion and a second.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
You want to take a quick break, Dave?
Yeah.
Okay. 2 minutes.
I gotta go too.
Oh, we'll go 3 minutes. Rhonda? Rhonda? All right. All right, we're going to get started again, Rhonda.
Are they on now? Hey, Brett. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, there it is. Why don't our PIT put out a news release on this new policy?
I'm sure they would be on it anyway. They're better than we are.
I know. Thank you. I'm going to brag about it in my town hall tonight.
All right. Welcome back. Item 6E.
6E, Public Works Department Administration Division, discussion and consideration to approve a resolution adopting a list of projects for fiscal year 2019 and 2020 funded by SB 1, the Road Repair and Accountability Act of 2017.
Finally.
Good morning again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Adel Kayat, Public Works Director. With me at the table there is Deputy Toller and Deputy Carters. As a condition of SB 1, the Road Repair and Accountability Act, and in accordance with the Streets and Highways Code, in order for local agencies to receive the Road Maintenance and Rehabilitation Account Fund, RMRA funds, agencies must adopt a list of proposed projects and provide the list to the California Transportation Commission prior to a specified deadline date, which is May 1st of this year. Madera County is projected to receive about $4.9 million of the RMA funds for this upcoming fiscal year. In the resolution in the back, it illustrates the 4 segments that we are adding to our SB 1 list, and we are here for any questions you may have.
Any questions? Supervisor Wheeler.
I had no question. I just can't thank you enough for getting this done. And I've had so many people, especially since the winter's been a little worse like it used to be, about our roads and stuff. And we got that SB 1 passed, and you guys voted for the Prop 6. So what's going on? Well, this is, now we can show them.
Sure. And Supervisor, also, you know, we put the list, this is projected for 1920. You know, SB 1 funds, they come monthly. So we have to accumulate it, and then in construction season, we're going to be very busy. We did plenty of maintenance jobs. Phil was really busy with his crews this past summer and fall, and we're going to get it again. So.
And it's, but that money, it's just like when you pass a, like Measure T. You know that money's coming, so you can borrow on it and do projects. So that's, because you know the money's coming.
Correct.
And once you find out that average is coming every month, we can really reach out and do some of these projects and do good projects instead of half-ass them and patch them and what have you, so.
And we can leverage Measure T with SB 1.
Right.
With the feds too. Like, we can make all of our tax dollars go to work even better now.
I wonder how many of the public, I should have punched in, I'm sorry.
Supervisor Rogers.
Yeah, I wonder how many of the public are aware of the seasonal nature of laying down pavement. I don't think people understand completely, because I talk to people in the wintertime and they're like, you know, you guys aren't fixing any holes. Well, the problem is that you put pavement in it, and the next rain, it's back out again. And it just, it's ineffective. It's chasing our tail, and there's a lot of money that goes into chasing your tail. The best form of changing that is going to be paving that takes away the opportunity for those potholes to show up. And that we're gonna get a handle on the problem that way. We did that in MD 21, and we are actually so far out in front of the problem. We are killing the problem systematically, and more of the money is going into actually paving roads. It's really a good thing. And I can't, I'm just so happy with that situation, and I know we're going to see the same. And it's a microcosm of what happens in the bigger picture when you are able to pave and take away the problem and stop chasing your tail and being reactive. And we just didn't have the funds to do it before. They weren't available.
It hadn't got a page number on it, but the page where pay now or pay more later, it's got our PCI of the county, and it's only 44%. And
I think we're jumping ahead.
Supervisor, this will be your next item.
oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Just bragging about you. What the hell?
It's okay. I know, I'm excited to get it done, so.
Ahmad, by, how much more are we getting now with SB1 in place?
By the month.
It's roughly around 4 million in RMRA. The first couple of years, we have repayment of some funds to the tune of about $300,000. So that'll go away, I think, after the third or fourth year. And that will eventually, it will slowly increase a little bit. But I think, I believe our projected overall is somewhere in the 4 to 5 million range.
And that's just
Per year?
the RMRA, that's
right
in addition to what we were
the
receiving before.
regular highway users tax, yeah.
And that was roughly, what, 3 to 4?
Yeah, so, well, I mean, for this fiscal year, we're looking at around 10 million total in gas tax plus SB1.
That's great.
That's great.
We haven't had that kind of money for years, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're.
Yeah, Supervisor Phil Toller with your Public Works Department. Just to give you a reference, about snapshot about 5 years ago, I think fiscal year 13-14, we had about $7.5 million in gas tax allocated that year. In year 17-18, we were at 1.7 million. So gas tax dwindled quite a bit up until the adoption of SB1. So now it's going to get us back to where we were.
So SB1 basically restoring these funds. So
I was just going to mean, it's the excise tax too that kind of fouled things up, or the lack thereof.
Yeah.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask for the public's informational standpoint, maybe for my own as well. This is based on what happens at the pumps in Madera County. Am I correct on that?
It's a formula.
The formula?
Correct.
And so as we add opportunities for people that are even migrant, like trucks, passing through, and they buy gas in Madera County, that formula changes? That amount changes?
Well, Supervisor, I can kind of answer that a little bit. So it is formulas based on streets and highways code sections. And so there's a lot of different things that go into that. Part of it is the maintained mileage that we have in the county. There's also vehicle registrations that they count. So those are the kind of the factors specific to our county that then go into the formulas of how much funding we get. So we don't necessarily get every, dollar that comes from gas pumps in our county. But we do, the more we put into it, the more that is there, and we do get a portion of that back through the formulas.
And we do get that through Measure T also.
Correct.
So
so Measure T is.
The difference is Measure
and then
T.
we can leverage that.
Correct.
Measure T.
So this isn't necessarily based on volume of gas purchased in the county?
Not in the county specifically.
Measure
no.
T is, but that isn't.
Yes, Measure T is specific to our county, and that is a sales tax.
I just wondered how that formula worked on that, so thank you.
Very complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Phil, on that, in 17-18, you said we had 1.4?
1.7.
1.7.
Yes, sir. The gas tax allocation in 17-18 was 1.755.
And what was what year was that 7.4 million?
That was 13-14.
13-14.
There wasn't that many new hybrid vehicles that were put on the road between then and then. It was shocking.
They robbed a lot of it too up there.
Yeah, which is why a lot of people
So you
were
got to remember
very
that.
nervous about
Yeah.
SB1 was because of what had happened in the past. And even now, he's saying if you don't meet your affordable housing, you don't get your SB1. we should be fine with that. So if they want to give us, if there's no affordable housing in Contra Costa or San Francisco County, we'll take any of their SB1 funds that he's going to hold back. You think he'll start there?
Oh, sure.
Alameda, not Contra Costa. Yeah. All right. Is there any members of the public wishing to make comment on this item? See none, I'll call close to the public comment, bring it back to the board.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Madam Clerk?
Call for the vote. Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
All right.
Hey, not on
Item
fire.
6F.
6F, Public Works Department, Engineering Services Division. Discussion and presentation of the final countywide pavement management program report.
Now you can look at this one, Tom.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Al-Qiyat again. In March of 2018, your board awarded a contract to Nicholas Consulting Engineering, NCE, to assist the Public Works Department with evaluating the county road network and develop and implement a countywide pavement management system that would assist in the prioritizing and sequencing of road maintenance throughout the county. We are finally here today to present to you and discuss the final countywide pavement management program report. First, I'd like to introduce the team. We have Mr. Jason Chandler sitting in the back. He will be our pavement management system champion. And Phil Toller and Jared Carter, our deputy directors. And also for the presentation, we have Margot Yap with NCE with the PowerPoint presentation. So ask questions as you wish.
We need Jason's phone number for when people call. Well,
Right.
Oh, I apologize. How about we do a little wrap up, Jared will see how we got here today. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
first, and then Margot will enlighten us.
Thank you, Ahmad, and Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Just to recap a little bit, and I know Ahmad kind of mentioned some of it, but just to kind of go through the efforts that we put into this. So in 2017, this was one of the priorities that was identified as part of the workshop, management workshop, and by the board. And so from that, we did enter into a contract with NCE to assist us with this process, who they have been very involved in this process throughout the state with agencies specifically, and they also work on the local streets and road needs assessment that comes out statewide. So we've collected data for over 2,000 miles of roadway in our county and processed and reviewed that data. It was input into the Street Saver software that we selected for our pavement management system. And so we're here to present, as Ahmad mentioned, we're here to present the findings of that evaluation and talk with you about where we're at with the state of the network and discuss possible options as far as setting some policies we want to look at for moving forward with pavement maintenance. So with that, I'll turn it over to Margot and let her go through the presentation.
Thank you, Jared. Good morning. I have a short presentation, but I would welcome any of your questions as we go through it, because I think that might be a little bit more productive. Okay. So what we have is a short story to share with you about the condition of the road network, as Jared indicated. And we use something called the Pavement Management Program. And what I wanted to share with you a little bit is to give you what this tool is supposed to help us do. As Jared mentioned, we're trying to make cost-effective decisions. We've got a very large road network in the county. We don't have all the money that we need. And how do we prioritize every single dollar that we do have? So this tool, this pavement management program, is something called Street Saver. And I like to think of it as really helping us answer some basic questions. How many miles of roads do we have? How much of it is gravel? How much of it is asphalt? Very importantly, is it good or fair or bad condition? I'm sure many of your residents have opinions on the roads, but we're trying to get a big picture here. And then I think the most important part for us is really what are the costs of trying to maintain the road system, of improving it, or what are the consequences of the existing dollars that we do have? So I'd like to start off this presentation by sharing with you the enormity of the task that you face. You have a very large network for a county this size, about 1,500, a little bit over 1,400 centerline miles of roads. If you look at this chart, you see that we have split it up into arterials, collectors, and residential roads. And arterials are the ones that have the big trucks that have higher volumes of traffic. Collectors are sort of the in-between, the residential roads you are all probably familiar with. It adds up to be about 1,400 miles, but that doesn't include, you've got almost 400 miles of gravel roads in the county, and then another 200 some miles that are either non-county maintained or private roads.
How many?
280 some.
280 some, okay.
283, yeah. But really, although the table has a lot of numbers, I think the one number that I want to leave you with is that it's an asset. It's a publicly owned asset, and assets have values. And this particular asset that the county owns is valued at over $700 million. And the way we got this number is we said that if we had a catastrophe, we had major floods, earthquakes, tornadoes, everything hits California, and if we had to replace this road system, it's going to cost at least $700 million. And that doesn't include the storm drains, the signals, the striping, and all the other pertinences. We're really just talking about the pavements itself. So it probably is one of the most valuable assets that the county has. And the question for us then is, what can we do to maintain this asset? We start out, as a good engineer, we like to put everything on a scale. We have a scale from 0 to 100. We call it the pavement condition index, with 100 being a brand new road that's been just paved, and you can see there's an example of one in this picture here. And then it goes all the way down to failed, and we have another picture. And so the county is great in terms of, you have a wide variety of road conditions. And where Madera County is at 44, which is solidly in the poor, what we would consider the poor category. And I'm often asked this question, where should we be at? What's a good number to be at? And I want to share with you some of the other counties and agencies. What I usually say, though, is that number depends very much on the policies that are in place. If my daughter, I have a 14-year-old, if she comes home and she tells me that on the math test, she got a 44, I might, as a parent, say, you know what, you're not going to get into college that way, you got to work a little bit harder. Or I might say, even though I am an engineer, and I was never particularly good at math in school, I might say to her, okay, that's all right, you can work a little bit harder, maybe you'll become an English major instead. But that reaction or that policy is really, again, similar to what you would have to do. What I can share with you today, though, are the consequences of what it would be to be at 44 and some of those financial implications. So to kind of familiarize you with what these PCIs or these grades look like, here's a road with a PCI of 81. Looks in pretty good shape. It's not brand new, but it's no potholes, no cracks. We should aspire to roads in this category if we can. If we let nature take its course and let it deteriorate over time, you can see now here's a road with a PCI of 61. The cracks are beginning to form. There's one right down the middle of the road, but still relatively smooth. It's serviceable. Even the bicyclists are going to say, that's not too bad. Now, if we don't do anything and we let it continue, now you get to see a road that has a lot of cracking. And the type of cracking matters very much. On this particular photograph, we see alligator cracking beginning to manifest. And that, to me, as a pavement engineer, is a sign of what we call structural failure. It has reached essentially the end of its service life, or about close to reach the end of its life. And then finally, here's a picture of a road. You can see that if we continue not doing anything, it will begin to look like cobblestones in effect. So where does Madera County stand in comparison with all the counties? This is a chart of all the counties in California, all 58 of them, and some of this data we got from the statewide report. But if you look at the big scale, you can see the little orange bar, that's Madera County. It's really at the bottom third quarter of the state. It's not a great place to be. There's also a green line that shows you what the statewide average is, and this is when we average all the counties and cities. It's at 65. So we're definitely below average for the state. The highest county on the way far right is going to be, let me look here real quickly. Yeah, Solano County, which is an average of 80-some. So big spectrum. I do want to point out one thing, and I'm going to bring up San Diego County a couple times in this presentation. And the reason we want to mention San Diego is because it has about the same number of miles as Madera, and they're around a PCI of 60. So they're not in great shape either. But they are slightly better than Madera. Now, the PCI is just one measure, it's one number, and I like to tease it out and look at things that really matter to the residents, because what the residents care about is the road in front of their house. And if we look at this pie chart, the green are the good roads and the red are the poor failed. And we can see that you do have some good roads. I mean, that is the good news in Madera. About 18% of your roads are in good shape. Now, the bad part is, unfortunately, 28%, 34%, almost 2/3 is in poor, very poor condition. And that's not a great metric to have. So in our analysis, what we tried to do is to see what can we do to chip away at that red and orange pieces and try to increase the green and blues. Now, the other part of the good news is that your arterials are in slightly better condition, and this is common for many agencies because the arterials do carry a slightly more traffic. It has been a primary focus of whatever limited funds that most agencies have in the state. So we see that the consequence, your arterials at 51, your residentials and your collectors are in the 40s. I also wanted to share with you this chart. It looks slightly complicated, but the bar charts represent the number of miles in each supervisorial district. As you're all aware, districts 1 and 2 have predominantly a lot more roads, many of them the rural areas, than districts 3 and 4 or even 5. And the blue line then represents the average PCI in each district. So District 4, for instance, has the highest PCI, 59, still not quite hitting the statewide average, but a little bit better than the 44 countywide. And then District 2 has 33, has the most number of miles, also the lowest condition. And that's partly because of the rural nature of many of these roads.
Margot, real quick.
Yes.
In your professional opinion, of the rural districts, which one has the best roads?
Of the rural district, which one has the best roads?
Yeah, between 1, 2, and 5.
I'd probably have to go back and take a look and add that up. I don't have that number off the top of my head. It's in one of the technical appendices that we have.
District 1 does.
Supervisor Wheeler, you had a question?
Yeah, Margot, on the cities, Chowchilla and Madera, do we count their roads?
No, City of Madera is not
Okay,
included in
I just
here.
want to make sure that, I've seen the little ones there at the bottom, so.
Right, this is just all unincorporated county roads.
Okay. That's good to know.
Here's another way of looking at it. You ask, well, which district has the highest number of good roads? Every line represents the supervisorial district, and the green represents the good roads. So if I looked at this, I can say that District 4 has the highest percentage of good roads, but it also only has 17 miles. So in terms of miles, not very many. We could probably do some quick math and calculate it, but like I said, my math wasn't my best subject in school. I'm not going to even try to do it mentally.
Something that would be of interest to me would be, okay, District 2 has the most.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yeah, thank you. Something that would be of interest to me would be, District 2 has the most number of roads.
Right.
The largest mileage. As a percentage of the mileage contained, which roads are bad, which roads are good, and what have you, that would be of interest.
Yeah, I can see that it's about 40-some percent, almost half of your roads are probably in the red category in District 2 from this chart. The part that I think what we are trying to do in this using pavement management is, like I said, to try to get the biggest bang out of the buck. And so we set up a decision tree, and we look at different maintenance practices. If you look at the green part of the curve, well, let me back up a little bit. The curve represents the life cycle of the road. And after it's built, it has a very gradual deterioration, but at some point it drops down fairly steeply before it kind of flattens out again. And the preservation policy is to try and preserve the good roads while they're in the top part of the curve before they drop over that cliff, if you will. And the cost of repair at different parts of this curve is quite significant. If you were to look at Preserving a good road, it costs about $350 a square yard right now. But if I don't do anything and wait till it falls apart and reconstruct it, it's going to cost about $75. That's a significant difference. That's more than 20 times the cost. So the analogy I like to use here is my car. I have a Toyota. It's about 12 years old. I have 180,000 miles on it. And I have been a diligent car owner. Every 5,000 miles, I bring it in for oil change. Thank you. I make sure that it gets its service. And hopefully it'll, take me over a couple 100,000, maybe 250,000 miles. So intuitively, as a car owner, that seems to be the right policy. But there is another option, right? I could buy the Toyota, I could not do any maintenance, and I could drive it to the ground and go back and buy a new car. Two different paths. Roads are kind of the same way. We can build them and then ignore them and not do anything and then come replace them. Or we can try and maintain them as we go along. So again, intuitively, the right strategy for us is to try and preserve what we have. So in the assumptions that we make in this analysis, we're always going to try and preserve what we have, the good roads that are there, and then try to chip away at the bottom. Now, the reality, of course, for Madera is that you have a lot of the roads, 2/3 in that orange and red category. So we do have to spend quite a bit of money in those two treatments.
Right.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yeah, there's another factor here involved in why some of the roads when you look at the roads in District 2, the failure of those roads, it has to do with the structure of the road. There was a slurry seal over sand, and that's really not a road, and that's just in the true sense of building a road, where you put down aggregate and compact and what have you. So there's a factor there involved, as well as the past practices of how those were produced.
Sure. And I think that's very typical for many rural agencies. You have essentially cow paths that were upgraded, and someone put the chip seal on top of it and called it good. Yeah. Sure. We did want to compare where Madera stood in terms of, and we compared this with primarily rural counties around the state. And what this chart shows is the total dollars that's needed to fix a road divided by the lane mile. So it's a normalized curve, if you will. And for Madera, even though you do have a lot of roads, you can see that we need about $133,000 to repair a lane mile. And if I were to look at the 10-year needs, it's in the order of about $380 million. Now, we contrast that with, for instance, with San Benito or Monterey County. They're higher up on the chart, and they need over $300 per lane mile to fix. So the takeaway from here is that you do have a very large road network. The repairs, the cost of repairs here is, I think we're making very effective use. I think Public Works staff has looked at strategies that are very cost effective. It's about 1/3 of what these other counties do. But even given that, even stretching every dollar that we do have, the enormity of the needs is still pretty big. I mean, you still have a $380 million backlog. We also did include San Diego County on this chart. It's an urban county, really. But if you look about halfway up the chart, you'll see San Diego. And again, I bring this up because we have about the same number of miles, and their needs are around the order of $250 or so per lane mile, $250,000 per lane mile. So the last question I think the staff asked us to do is, okay, well, Margot, you've given us the bad news. We need $380-some million. What can we do about this? And so we looked at a variety of scenarios. The first one is to look at the existing funding. You can see that if we add up the 5.5 and the 1.5, that's about $7 million a year, and that includes Measure T as well as SB1. And let me just dive into the charts, and then we'll come back to some of the other scenarios. So what this chart shows are two things. The first, that line, is the PCI, or the Pavement Condition Index. And at $7 million a year, what we can see that it's not enough. It's going to drop from an average of 44 to about 28 in 10 years. That's pretty steep. The bar charts, however, are what is more important to me in many ways. That's the unfunded backlog or the deferred maintenance. And I like to think of that as those are the repairs that we need to be doing, but we can't afford to. So the important part about these bar charts is you'll see that in 2019, it's about $257 million. That's what we're projecting. But in 10 years, at this existing funding level, it will almost double. And that's huge. So even though the PCI only dropped about 14 points or so, 16 points or so, the backlog almost doubles. And think of the analogy of an iceberg. The tip of the iceberg is only 1/8 of the total volume above the waterline. 7/8 of the iceberg's below the waterline. The PCI is analogous to the top of the iceberg. It just shows you the tip. It's a fairly insensitive measure. But the deferred maintenance grows exponentially, and that's below the waterline. It's sometimes hidden. I want to make sure that you're aware of this because many agencies I talk with only focus on the PCI, and I want to at least give you the second metric of the deferred maintenance. So that's not great news, right? 7 million, we don't have enough to fix what we need to fix. Everything's going to go in the wrong direction. So the next question that the Public Works asks us to look at is, well, what would it take to just maintain where we are, stay the course, not drastic improvements, but just stay the course. And now you can see, if you look at this chart, the PCI is kind of pretty flat. It's at 44. The deferred maintenance creeps up a tiny bit, but not too dramatically, but it definitely still goes up. And the budget required is essentially doubled. It's 16.5 million, more than double what you have. The next question the staff asks us to do is, okay, let's try to be a little more aggressive, a little more proactive. What can we do to improve things? So we looked at improving it to 55. And now you can see the trends are going something more along the lines of what we would like to see. The PCI improves to 55. The deferred maintenance is essentially drops a tiny bit, is essentially stable. And you need almost 3x of what you have.
Save some money.
And then, not the last one, but close to last, is another question is, well, what would it take to get us to the statewide average? Remember I said the statewide average was 65. And now we're looking at almost more than 4 times the dollars at 31.8 million a year. And now, but you really see the deferred maintenance begin to drop. And then finally, the last scenario we ran was, well, what if we would try to take a big cut at that unfunded backlog, maybe essentially reduce it to almost zero? You would need about $40-some million, and that's 6 times the funding level that you have. So just to kind of maybe pound the nail a little bit more in terms of giving you, what those consequences are. If we look at the same pie chart, which I said was this is 2/3 of your road network in poor, very poor, and if we were to let things go for the next 10 years with the existing $7 million, now you look, 2/3 of your road network will be solidly red. Now the program will try to preserve your good roads, so you can see that green part of the pie inch up a tiny bit because it's trying to shave away at the orange part, but it's just not quite enough money to make things happen. If we were to increase that budget to about 16 million, now you can see we're seeing the needle move a little bit. The green part of the pie is going to grow significantly. Now the red part still is growing. We're ending up essentially with a 2-tiered system with some pretty good roads and some pretty poor roads. And if we continue looking at the other scenarios for comparison, if we can improve it to 55, now we're getting somewhere. 3/4 of your road network now is in either fair or good condition, and we're holding our own with just that 1/4, 20-some% with the red part. And then obviously, if we were to improve it to 65 or even to 74, that would be wonderful. At 74, you've eliminated all the poor roads in the county. You're in pretty much blue or green territory. And another way of looking at it would be to say, well, let's take a look at the road network. This is unincorporated county roads. Green and blues are sort of the good and fairs. The red and oranges are the poor. And you can see what pops out at you is a lot of red roads. Now, there's some pockets of green. These are probably the newer subdivisions that have been built, but there are very few of those. And if we were to let things go with the 7 million, it's almost solid red. Those little green parts of the county, we're trying to preserve them as best we can. However, if we were able to get a little bit more money, even at 16 million, you can see parts of the more urbanized parts of the county, it's starting to look green. And obviously at 55, we have some arterials and collectors that are still red, but the bulk of the local roads are looking good. And then finally, at 65 and 75, we are almost essentially eliminating all the poor roads. So let me pause here for a second, see if there's any questions.
So, we've got the same number of miles as San Diego County. I'm
Yes.
guessing that our funding, in San Diego County, they're not getting 7 million, I would guess.
No.
Is that correct?
It's in the order of 53 million a year.
And they're at what, and I looked at the deal, they're at 61, or is it just under that, they weren't that great.
They were at 60.
Okay, so to get to where they are, how much do they get per year?
They're allocating about 53 million a year.
So,
And they have the board has directed the staff to look at ways to improve them to in the 70s in 5 years, which is a very, very aggressive goal. So they are trying to look at different scenarios right now, but they are spending about $53 million a year.
it's easier to get, so so we, obviously, with the money that we have, there's no way that we can get to this. Do we need to reduce the number of miles in our overall budget? How do we get to there? And then how do we find more funding? Is there ways to, that we can get there? Is it through grants? Is it through creating road district? I heard you. I'll get you next. Is it creating more road districts, or so? What is everything?
Yeah, Supervisor, that's kind of the ultimate question. You know, there are several reasons for compounding issues, and, you know, historically, the last 20, 25 years, the practice has been, let's just take care of the arterials and let everything else kind of go away. We do have a lot of miles of road for our, you know, for our sparse county, we're just not that densely populated. You know, Supervisor Rogers touched base on it. We have had a lot of roads built out on the west side, and even some in subdivisions that haven't been built to any kind of standards. Past board accepted, you know, the practice was accepting roads into the maintained mileage system up until about the early 80s when that had stopped. So our funding levels have always been deficient. We've had tree mortality, you know, that's resulted in increased deferred maintenance. You know, our road mountain crews were, for 2 years, that's all they did was they focused on tree removal, and road maintenance was deferred. So we're trying to catch up on the culvert replacement now, because we don't want to treat any roads with failed culverts underneath. So we're working on that now, and we have the ability to do a lot of stuff in-house. Some of the preventative maintenance stuff that Margot touched on, which would be more of the seal types, we do not have the ability. The county historically used to have a chip spreader and an oil spreader. We don't have those pieces of equipment anymore. But we do have a paving machine. So we have been able to do a lot of work in-house the last 4 or 5 years. However, with the revenues we've seen, the dwindling tax dollars, a lot of those efforts were focused on maintenance districts that had been increasing budgets over the years. So there's a lot of issues compounding to it to get us to that point. We've been running skeleton crews, air board requirements. We have to be compliant with the air board now. We're having to get rid of a lot of our equipment to be Tier 4 compliant, and that's requiring us to either having to retire equipment or replace equipment, which is coming in a hard place. And then when Jared gets a bridge project, maybe it's 100% grant funded, a federal fund bridge. It might be a $2 million project. Well, we got to front load that project out of road maintenance account. So we might not be get reimbursed until the following fiscal year. So there's a lot of issues when we're dealing with a small pot each year, putting it on the road. And, you know, I don't know where to go from here. And we're hoping to get kind of a prioritize on, you know, do we want to stick with our roads in the green, or?
I would imagine that our equipment, not in tier 4, would do less to the air than our roads at 25 PCI and what they do when you have
Yeah,
to
no kidding.
slow down your car going through there and create more emissions. But
Absolutely.
Supervisor Rogers, you were ringing in.
Yeah.
Not working right now, so.
I know,
Yeah.
I heard him hitting it.
Trying to
Yeah.
get it to work. One of the things that we've talked about in the past, and I've talked about it at length with Ahmad, Phil, and Jared, is abandoning roads, grinding up roads that are not adequate at all, or, basically lead nowhere, grinding them up, and maybe spraying them with a light slurry to keep the dust down, comply with the Air Pollution Control District requirements. There's a lot of roads in District 2 that would apply to, and I think as they were poorly constructed anyway, grinding those roads up would make them passable. They would be, they wouldn't be freeways, but they would be utilizable. They'd have utility for the type of traffic that they get, which is farm equipment, light residential travel, and they just weren't constructed to any standard that meant they would last. I mean, they lasted for a while, a lot longer really than they probably should have.
Right.
But an oil cake over sand is not does not on a road make it. And what we've ended up with is a circumstance where we've created a monster for the public because they expect to be able to travel on those oil cake roads because they've always been there.
Right.
Now, we don't have the ability to maintain them. And I think they're going to have to, a large number of them are going to have to go away. Through a study, through something, we're going to have to determine that, hey, we need to abandon a certain number of roads that go nowhere. We need to grind up roads that can be ground up and would have utility better than what they do now because they're so potholed you can't drive on them. Like that picture you had of the poor condition road, the failing road. We have those all over District 2. I mean, you were out there.
Oh, yes, we saw them.
Yeah, I drive them and I
felt them.
Yes, we definitely felt them. Our vehicle took a couple
I'm taking
hits.
pictures of these roads and sending it in request to the road department for repair through the Madco Services app. And, they do what they can, but you can't keep dumping material on a road that's unrepairable. This is unrepairable. Pretty soon it just becomes this one big patch and it's bumpy. I mean, it's not even passable as a road anymore, even dumping material into potholes.
And converting the roads, I think, back to gravel is not, it's not out of, it's not an extreme position. I was in Nebraska last month, and there are major cities in Nebraska actually looking at either letting the roads revert back to gravel. Detroit is another good example. So these are major metropolitan areas. And the option they have for residents is that I think in Omaha they said that if the residents are willing to pony up 50% of the cost of the road repairs, then Public Works will come and pave the road. Otherwise, it reverts to gravel. It is not an uncommon situation that cities and counties are faced with today.
We've had some private-public partnerships where, as an example, out on Avenue 14, we paved a large percent or a large mileage of Avenue 14 based on entities that came forward with enough money to buy materials, and our paving crews went out there and did it. And it's great stuff. I mean, if that can happen, that's fantastic, and it makes a huge difference in the mileage system. Maybe, Phil, if you'd like to add to that.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Well, that's where we've been the last few years, is trying to find these adaptive alternatives. What can we do? Grinding roads are a fantastic option. You could get a lot more bang for your buck. However, unfortunately, like back east, we don't have the ability, at least on the valley floor, to leave those as gravel roads. We have to put some kind of dust
Slurry
pallet
of
on top
some
to
kind.
meet
Have
air
some
board
kind of dust
requirements,
control,
so.
period.
But it's still, I mean, you could do 3 or 4 times the amount you could with the standard overlay.
I think that's an option we need to really, I mean, this just says, it screams, you're not going to get there, brother. I mean, that would be dreamy.
So
If this was my retirement plan, I'd be just, shoot me, somebody shoot me.
who picks the roads that go to that condition? Would it be voluntary for the people that are using it, or, how do we?
Well, I think we should try some, the areas that we could try them in would be out in the outlying the country areas where it's basically a farm road, and I think even the residents have said to me over and over again, I've traveled on roads in North Dakota that are better than this, they're gravel. I don't think they would be opposed to traveling on a gravel road if it had
Decent base.
structure that was passable.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah, thank you. A lot of stuff. In the middle 80s, early 80s, then they finally changed our road rules in the middle 80s. The county actually recommended chip seal as roads, and I fought them. I come down, and after they changed the rules, they wanted me to put chip seal on that 8 miles of roads I put on the Flying O Ranch. And I come down and got a 4-1 vote to put just all gravel roads. Because once you put chip seal down, you're screwed, because you can't patch. I mean, you can half-ass patch it, you can't grade it, you can't do nothing with it. So it's a joke. And I took each supervisor up there and showed them 2 roads up there that county approved with chip seals, and it don't work. But other thing, and I've been in almost every western state hunting and stuff, and there are so many dirt gravel roads in those states up there with got a lot worse weather than we do, and they work. But the trouble is with us here, the air board, if there's any kind of dust, they'll come in and fine us if we don't put some kind of a seal on that to stop the dust. So,
Maybe we could do a study
and then the other thing is staff, now that we know we've got a future income, it's going to be pretty steady, and hopefully it grows with the, gas going up now especially. Can we borrow monies on those like we do, like at MCTC every once in a while? We know we got that money coming in, so we can try to get some projects going and borrow the money on them to pay as we get that money?
Yeah, Supervisor, we haven't specifically looked into that option, but definitely we can look and see if that's something we can do to borrow against future funds. I just initially thinking about it, I know that SB, gas tax money is there. Most of what we get are projections, so we don't know exact numbers.
No, we don't, but I mean, you wouldn't want to max it. You'd
Sure.
want to keep it down, but that we know, well,
Sure.
we're pretty sure coming. And,
Unfortunately, remember, it used to be a steady income stream, and then it went from 7 million to 1.7 million.
Right.
Right, and
a year, so it depends on what.
well, a lot of that, Sacramento took it too, and then we do have, better gas mileage cars and a lot of electric cars that is not used in most of our counties compared to other counties, so.
Sure. The other thing I would add too is that, we do have our Measure T program that is a little more consistent, and we do, I would say control those funds more. And so that is something that we definitely want to try to continue to, keep active and hopefully moving into the future. The other thing on the funding side of things as well is, SB1 is great, and it's bringing us more money. It's getting us, I would say, back up to where we used to be, we would be potentially if things hadn't tailed off in the economy and things like that. But overall, I will say that revenues from gas tax are going to be an issue moving into the future because cars are always getting more efficient. The technology and everything that comes with that. So. I want to paint more doom and gloom in this whole thing, but it really is going to become an issue of what is a more sustainable source of revenue related to transportation and impacts to the roads. So things like the road user charge program that's been piloted and other sorts of programs like that to be more specific to the actual use and impact on the road versus just the fuel or whatever you're using to power those roads, or excuse me, those vehicles.
Yeah, would it be good management if we bought one of those grinders and reground it ourselves like we do the paver?
If that was our policy.
Yes,
if that
that's
was our
6
policy
thumbs
to
up.
do those things, I think.
8 thumbs up.
I mean, I just, because I know we can do it cheaper, we don't have to do prevailing wage and all that, and it just, I mean, when we done that paving, when you guys first got that up there and down here both, I mean, it saved us probably $1 million, so
Yeah.
easily.
I agree with you. I would really love to see something like that in the program just to increase our ability to go out and treat more roads, especially now with the new regulations and SB 720 in place. Anything over an inch is now considered a capital project and has to be contracted out unless you do a declaration by the board and you limit it to 30% of your budget. So really, the overlays, they're limiting me, even though we have our own paving machine and we have the ability to go out and do a really good job.
Unions for you.
But with reclaimers, milling machines, oil spreaders, chip machines, slurry machines, that type of stuff are not subject to that rule.
So
And
we
would
could get
be able
those
to
and
extend-
then do them
extend
ourselves and save actually millions of dollars.
Absolutely.
I just have a comment before I see him. Mr. Chairman, you asked what other funding can we do, and then you asked if we can borrow towards.
I never asked about borrowing, that was Supervisor
Mr. Wheeler.
Okay, so I just want to let you know, the $7 million a
I don't want
year.
to go
that-
into debt, that's Supervisor Wheeler. WHEELER.
What I'm saying is, the $7 million that we're talking about, we really need to know there is 1.5, which is Measure T. So that's very important. This, of course, in 2026, there's going to be another challenge to continue Measure T or not.
Right.
But also, with Margot's presentation, for us to keep the status quo, we need double that every year. We need 14 million,
Absolutely.
15
That's what I'm
million a
saying.
year.
I know we do. Just by
So
her
if we
program
can, so for us to find some funding or borrow towards these incoming monies, it's already, we know it's not going to serve the purpose of keeping the status quo. So and also that $7 million is all the equipment, all the staffing, all the personnel, so not everything goes into the pavement.
Supervisor Rodriguez.
Bill, Congress is considering increasing the gas and butane tax. Will we share in that revenue if that was to happen?
You're referring to increase in
They're
gas?
talking about increase in the gasoline tax. If that happens, will we share in that revenue, additional revenue?
Federal, Max? Federal. Oh.
You are considering it.
Oh.
I'm not sure. I could definitely look into
Is
that.
that generally that way it works?
Generally speaking, most of that federal tax, gas tax goes to the highway system first.
Right.
So Caltrans will probably be the bigger
Say first,
beneficiary.
Would we be secondary?
That would depend on the individual RSTPs and the negotiations that occur in Congress and the lobby. I think on the administration side, the Obama administration, for instance, favored transit. So a lot of that money went to transit bus operators, which is Central Valley had these bus operators here. Now, with the Trump administration, if they change that focus, it's possible that it may come to roads, but I think it's really a big question mark.
Supervisor Poitras.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one thing on the vehicle miles traveled option as far as funding. If anybody'd ever like to have a seminar, I'd be happy to arrange it. For the last 5 years, I've been on the Road Charge Technical Advisory Committee representing the Central Valley. I've got a meeting on the 26th. I'd be happy to, get those folks here and give some kind of presentation if you're interested.
That'd be good.
But, yeah, so let me know whenever you'd like to schedule it. I can make arrangements. But my
The question is, we've talked about a decision tree. You know, we've got all these horrible roads, and, you know, we've got this much in the way of horrible roads, we've got this much money. What's the decision tree to figure out which roads to fix? Because, you know, that's what this program is supposed to do, is to take the politics out of it. And, you know, I can still see the, you know, there could still be some political things, because everybody's got bad roads. And so I could see people say, well, how about this one? How about this one? So let's talk about the decision tree.
Sure. So in trying to prioritize and deciding which roads to fix first, so all things being equal, if you have two roads and they're both the same size, same condition, and the same cost to repair, the program will usually pick the roads with the higher traffic volume because it serves more users. In other words, an arterials will always be picked first over a collector, over a residential, unless you specifically tell the program only put the money in residential or the local roads, which we could do, but that's not normally the case. Another factor that comes in, of course, is the condition. If a road only required $5 to preserve it and to keep it going for another 5, 6, 7, 8 years, it's going to compare that road with a road that's going to cost $80 to reconstruct, and it's going to say, this road with the preventive maintenance is going to be a bigger bang for the buck for every dollar that you spend, and it will therefore select this road. So there's a benefit cost ratio, in fact, that is being calculated for every single dollar. And the roads with the highest benefit cost ratios are the ones that get prioritized or selected first.
All right, Supervisor Rogers.
Very tough subject, really. And do we have any idea of what it takes to grind up a road, spray it suitable to APCD standards, and for travelability and utility? Do we know what that would cost per mile?
Yes, Supervisor, we've done a couple of those roads already, and we know it's probably going to be about a third of the cost of a traditional 2/10 overlay or a 2.5 inch overlay. So the issue has been recently is we do not have access to that the pulverizer.
The grinder, yeah.
So, and with construction going up right now, that's been out. We've been trying to work with Caltrans on the use of their milling machine, which is a very smaller scale and just more of just the surface layer.
Is that the one we used over there on Club Drive?
Yes.
That was neat. You should have seen it. I mean, they were able to pass that thing over the road, and it cut it down exactly how far they wanted to go, and it was ready to lay, and really works well. What process is necessary for us to go through to decide which roads we would like to, do we have a policy in place on roads we'd like to grind up or abandon or what have you? Because there's no doubt, I don't even have to ask the question, there is no doubt we have to decrease the inventory. It has to happen. And I know from what I've heard in District 2 from the residents there, in a large part, they'd rather drive over a gravel road that's passable than a bumpy paved road. So what would it take for us to initiate a program at least in District 2 where we choose some roads to see how the public likes this, do an experiment of kinds?
So I would probably recommend, we're hoping to get some options here and get some prioritization, but if you were to look at something as far as vacating or grinding it up, I would probably look at maybe already failed local residential roads. If that's the policy the board wants to do, is focus on the failed roads, or we will get a lot more bang for the buck, but again, you're deferring the preventative maintenance from the green roads then at that point in time. But if we pick some as a trial base maybe and say, okay, we're only going to do this many miles.
We're going to do so many a year, some say.
And then calculate the costs and keep track of the costs and say, okay, this is our average per mile down here on the valley floor.
Because that once you grind the road up, the only maintenance really when it's ground up, and it would be maybe an annual spraying on the
you spray it and you can't grade
the
it.
sealer. Well, I mean, you could grade it and then spray it.
Yeah.
To keep
Once
it
you
from
seal it with sealer,
dusting.
it's just like chip seal, that's what they called that, and that's the reason they got rid of it, because you cannot do nothing with that.
Yeah, it's just like.
You want to leave it, you want to leave the ground up gravel, so you, or pavement, asphalt, so you can grade it.
Up in the hills, it makes a lot more sense not to do that, just because it is easier in the long run to maintain it. We could just take a blade in twice a year with possibly a water truck
Right.
and reshape the road, and you're out. Down here on the valley floor, we don't have that luxury, so we do have to put some type of surface emulsion on it, and that does make it harder to
That
maintain
complicates
unless
the-
you stay on top of it, and you get your compaction first, you oil it, and you as soon as it starts oxidizing, you go back with another surface treatment.
Which is a much cheaper.
By far cheaper.
Maintenance solution than anything else that we have.
Correct. Not as good as a gravel road up in the hills, but yes, cheaper for anything else down here on the valley floor.
Right, so I liked where Rob was going, that's where I was headed. I liked also hearing that where the decision tree is that it goes, you know, it focuses on lowest cost, biggest bang for the buck, and then highest traveled.
Right.
So I think, obviously, our residential roads are probably gonna be in the highest need. They've been not taken care of for years because all the money has gone on to the arterials. So in wherever there are enclaves, and I see Bar ready, chomping at the bit to come up and talk, because he's got the most pristine roads in Madera for residential areas. Is that correct? Except for not, right? There's bumps everywhere. When I was walking precincts, I almost twisted my knee and ankle just walking on the road.
She's got a few more pages to go, right?
I have just a couple more slides to wrap up, and then,
Yeah,
I
gave you time to talk. I don't get.
No, I thought maybe you were,
No.
yeah, see, you closed it, that's the reason I said that.
Yeah, no, but in those residential areas, going forward, same thing that we did with our special districts and looking at what the cost was to update the systems, having to do that out there, taking 218s for the road districts or creating new road districts around areas that have, you know, a certain number of people to be able to fix and maintain those roads to a higher
Great
level.
idea.
And, you know, the worst that we can be told is no, right? But we say,
Need 95.
look, this is our realistic assessment of the road. These are the facts and data that show what it is, what it will take to get there. This is what happens if we don't do anything. It's your decision. How do you want the roads to look? This is what, because everyone thinks that their property tax dollars are what pay for the roads, and it's not the case. And so we've said it many times, but until we go out and actually do that education, show, okay, this is where it comes from, this is what it can be, or if the people are saying no, roads are more important, then maybe as a board we have to divert and say, okay, then what is it that you want to cut that out of this discretionary budget? Where are we going to backfill that?
Close fire stations.
Yeah, close fire stations, close like that, and I don't think that's where people are going to want to go. So we have to look at how do we get there. So,
Nope.
so we'll finish up the last few slides, but those are the things that I think we're going to need to do, and then have a policy set that what would be a ground up road, and if someone comes and wants to vacate a road, do we say, okay, we'll just grind it up and, you know, you use it as driveway, but this would be the last of the maintenance that we do, so.
all right. Well, my last few slides actually address some of the things that you've already talked about, so I'm going to go through them fairly rapidly. I think I've hammered the point home that we don't have enough money in the county, so I'm going to skip these two. And I think you've all gotten the point that the existing dollars that we do have is not sufficient to maintain the road system. The one last slide I think I want to leave with is you've already started looking at these policy considerations You've got restrictions in terms of air quality control and what kind of treatments can be used. But I think the local economy is an important aspect. I'll share with you the example of Sonoma County. Very similar, about 1,200 miles of roads, don't have enough money, a lot of them in bad condition. And what the board and the staff did was came out with a network of about, I think it was around 240, 280 miles of what they call high priority roads. These were the ones that serve either agriculture, recreational, volume, schools. You just pick the variables that matter and then say, this is the network we're going to focus on. So you could do that as well in Madera, and I think some of you have already started thinking along those routes. I think residents, of course, are part of the equation. People want a smooth ride. People don't want to get broken windshields and bumpy rides. So that's a maintenance issue. But I think the last part that sometimes we forget is, I started out this presentation. This is a significant asset that's owned by the county, $700 million worth. I think it behooves us, our parents, our grandparents paid for this asset. It behooves us to try and see to do what we can to maintain that asset. Because if we had to build it over from scratch, it's going to cost an awful lot more. So that's pretty much all I have, and you guys have been great. Good questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Supervisor Rogers.
Yeah, there's one other thing that staff is already doing this to an extent, but I think we need to also focus in on it a little bit more, perhaps, because of recent developments. We've gone after some grant funding from the federal government on, as an example, 26, it goes out to Eastman Lake. That's going to be paved on federal funds. I think there's other opportunities through USDA. By the way, we're going to have a staff meeting with their California rep, who's a personal friend of mine, fellow colleague from up north, used to be a supervisor. Now she's head of USDA for California rural development. And what I'm thinking of is farm to market. In District 2, there's a lot of that opportunity for artery roads to get funding through USDA, maybe some other type of grants where we have that opportunity. And we just need to look a little deeper and innovate a little more, maybe. I think that's where I'm at with the grinding. I'm ready to do it because of 8 years of moving downhill is not an option anymore.
What would what would the cost of grinding up a road, like on that scale of between $3 a foot to treat a good road versus $75-50 if we were running the crews, or if it had to be bid out? Do you know roughly?
Depending on the surface treatment, probably somewhere over about $6 to $10 per square foot, depending on the surface treatment.
And those are the roads that are going to be the $75-80 to replace and repair, because there would be no other treatment for those, right? Most likely.
Not recommended. You can Band-Aid it and put an overlay on top, but whatever's happening to that road is going to reflect right through the new surface.
Yeah. Supervisor Vila?
Yeah, just one comment, Margot. I like my numbers, my pages numbered. That way I don't have to guess what page I want to go back to. And so if you number them all when you do that, I don't know if anybody else has ever said that to you, but, and then staff, when you did the special district, is YOP, Yosemite Lakes Park, are they in this too?
No, sir, they were left out because they are private roads.
Okay, because I'm going to speak up there at Town Hall tonight, and I didn't want to overload with my other. Thank you. Great job, great information, something we can really, really use, I tell you. And this has all the roads in it, right? Thank you.
Even the Old Town Road? Oh, I get this.
Just wanted to add a couple things. We hope to, with this, maintain an automated data collection every 5 years for your board. And Jason and I will be be getting certified on the ASTM and being able to put boots on the ground and do PCI ratings on the annually, especially after road maintenance projects to keep your board updated. And then we can break out reports each year by district and basically run these reports however you guys would like to see them.
Does Jason work for us, or is?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
Jason's been with us for almost 13 years, or just over 13 years, I think.
Oh, is that all? Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, I also want to just throw out one last comment to these guys. You guys do a great job despite the lack of resources. I think it's incredible. I know you don't get the recognition because of the problem, and the problem is huge. It's just ginormous. You can't solve it. It's an unsolvable problem, and yet we make huge strides despite that in some little areas, and people are just so grateful when it happens. MD21, you know that from my standpoint. But I just wanted to say that publicly, that I know you work very hard at this and try very hard, and if we only had the pavement, you guys would pave the world.
No, as we look at this, because right now we're using a lot of Band-Aids, which cost a lot of money, right? We're putting out pothole mix, and so are we going to continue to do that with this, or can we say, okay, all of that money, and about how much is that? I know it's not.
That's a good question. You could see from our curve that was on the board, that Margot put on the board, I mean, we are at getting to the more expensive treatments. Ideally, we'd want to save what we have in the green. My worry has been if I go out and fix a road that's already decent and, ignore a road that's been
People get really
that's
keyed
failed.
off.
What's going to happen to me here? So,
Yeah.
that we're also trying to serve the public the best we can, and I mean that's extending the taxpayers' dollars as far as they go. So, I think that's going to take more discussion unless your board wants to direct us how we do that. Jared and I were at a conference last week. We learned that other agencies have taken a split approach where they're doing maybe a 70-30 approach, to where let's use 70% of our existing revenue to try to preserve what we have, 30%, and maybe we'll pick at those political roads or those roads that are already in a failed condition, and see if we can chip away at them that way. So there's different scenarios within that.
Is 70-30 a good number, or would that be your recommendation, or is it 80-20? Is it 60-40? What would be for our input?
What are you thinking on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we could give you a perfect number right now. We could definitely look at some different options in terms of how those would play out, and look in with this tool, we will be able to do that kind of stuff and evaluate those sort of things and give you an idea of what it will look like. The big thing is, I know Phil mentioned this before, but the other part to this is balancing our capital projects with our maintenance projects. Our bridge replacements and those sorts of things are quite expensive, and we do go after a lot of other funding sources to do those types of projects that are specifically designed for those types of projects, but they do require to have that funding up front to pay for it. So at times we have to, Phil and I have sometimes have battles over, we have to arm wrestle over who gets the money and who's going to do the project, but it's just one of those things that try to focus and get as much maintenance as we can on the ground, but realizing that we have bridges and things that are in conditions that need to be addressed, or they can become a huge issue too. So
Okay, so on those projects, so say, obviously we don't have it this year, but to be able to accomplish those kinds of projects where you guys aren't arm wrestling over it, and sometimes I would imagine we have to lose it because we don't have the ability to pay for it up front, and so it just goes away and we can't get it. So I think through this, if we look at, okay, that's a problem that we have every single year, can we look at just setting aside a contingency fund, or a roads fund that we're able to cash flow some of these things out of it then gets paid back, just like we have our contingency fund or our reserve fund, but we start to save that up. If it's $1 million, $2 million, whatever, we start to budget that over the next couple of years to set aside to just pay for, to keep cash flow so that we don't lose any of these projects just because we can't start it. Is that something that would work or be helpful? So there's a constant pot of money, not just waiting to get what is given to us, the scraps from the table, as it were?
Yes, we used to have one. Now, obviously, last 5 years, the tax dollars were dwindling and the revenues were going down, and we ate more and more into that reserve. But yes, I mean, ultimately, it's really up to you guys how much you want to defer into a reserve account that Jared could have. Although I will still argue the point that a mile of road makes more smiles than one bridge. But
Absolutely.
Not when somebody's in the river.
But yes, we could definitely look at, paying a certain percentage of those monthly revenues into that account and to use those to offset Jared's capital projects.
And I'm even talking a step further where the general fund is setting up that we can budget for that and start to try and chip away at it so that it, like I said, this year we're not going to be able to say, oh, hey, there's $2 million we can loan out, we'll get paid back. But if it's a revolving fund that we can set that aside, I think that could be helpful. It's a budgetary item that we can do.
Yeah, I mean, what Phil said, in the past, we used to have that cushion where when we have a bridge project, $5 million project, we have to put up 11% as a match, and also we need to front the project. We used to be able to do that, but now it's getting a little tight because of all these depleting funds and too much work to do. But there are means. I mean, regardless, the revenues are coming, so at least we have options now, whether you establish as a policy a contingency fund, from the general fund where we can borrow and pay back, or from any other means like we've done with our special districts, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we will be coming to you as case per case unless there is a policy, but.
So, yeah, I think bringing a policy forward like that would work for you so that when money's available, that we can just go straight to it and not have to worry about setting something up. But if obviously we're this far behind, we need to be able to strike any single moment that there's a possibility of getting any kind of money that's outside of what we're normally getting.
Absolutely.
And we know already this year is going to be a heavy construction year with the transportation or with utilities. So.
Right. Supervisor Rogers?
Yeah, what you said, Supervisor, that was dead on. And I'm thinking that we need to brainstorm a little further with the financing department on options available to us. We have monies that are set aside, and there are other organizations in Madera County that have money set aside in this is an investment, and it's an easy return. I mean, there's no doubt the money's going to come. It's just we don't have the money to front it. So this is an easy investment to fix our infrastructure. We need to be prepared for that some way or another, and let's brainstorm on that and make that opportunity available. I think we can do that.
Well, it's an asset worth $705 million. Let's just sell it, right?
Yeah, good idea.
Fix all of our problems.
Privatize it, man.
CAO?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think finding a way to cash flow these things is the least of our problems. We can do that, and we have a series of places where we could go for that. But I think what I'm hearing is we need to come back as staff with recommendations that address all of these areas, possibly purchasing a new chipper, and we need to come up with a game plan that we can present to your board. And I think that's our next step. We'll talk about budget and discretionary funding possibly. And
I'm going to start a poll online on my end in District 2, ask people, how many of you would rather have a ground-up road than a old paved road impassable.
Yeah.
I guarantee you what the results.
So I think when we've been anxiously waiting for this and thinking like there's going to be some
Magic bullet.
great answer, right? And like, oh, all we had to do was just look at it a different way, and it was stupid for all of us to think that, especially me. I did. I thought that we could, we would have. I knew that it was going to be bad, but I thought that.
Thought there was a golden
There
goose
was,
down
well, I
there
thought that there would be
someplace.
like a recommendation right off the bat, but when you look at the numbers and what it actually looks like, it's like, how do you recommend when everything is bad? Like, where do you prioritize? But I think what I'm hearing also, and as the CAO did, is that we trust you as our roads department to look at it and give us some various different options. I think you heard that, 70-30 or 60-40. We don't know what the number would be for us to just kind of pick it. So looking at what your recommendation would be very helpful for us to start to build that policy around that and focusing the funds. Do you see that?
Absolutely.
I think looking at the chipper and, doing a cost analysis on, okay, we spend this money here, but we can do this many more miles based on that, and this is what it would be to do that many miles, including the cost of the chipper. So, yeah, anything else? Any other direction?
No. Go to it.
Lay it on us.
Good job. Even 1 month later, it's nice to have, I'll tell you.
I mean, this is, of course, no surprise to everybody. It's just that now we know exactly the condition of every
Right.
road. It's in our inventory. And, we will be able to track that in real time, once, we get the know-how and the training on it. So I think this is a good thing moving forward, and we appreciate your support with it.
That way, when we get the call, do you know how bad my road is? Yes, it's
Yes, hold on.
27. All right, any public comment?
Here we go. Whoop, you lost your badge.
Badge is gone. Name's Bar Kohlberg. I'm a Madera County resident. I have 4 points of clarification, but before I get there, I got to say, that is one of the most excellent presentations I've ever seen.
I agree.
The what-if scenarios and all of that is just superb. So I want to look at some of the criteria. You said, let's see, are the district percentages of the supervisors, are the district PCIs by supervisor district or by maintenance district?
What
Because
was presented in the presentation was by supervisor district, but we have the ability to go back and run them by road district. We can do it by maintenance district. There's a lot of different ways we can run it. For purpose of this presentation, it was done by supervisorial district.
Because the maps look similar, but I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, great. So the clarification, the stats that the maps are based upon are, silly me, on maintenance districts or supervisor. It's the same answer, right? It's on supervisor? Okay. Did this include any of the maintenance districts or CSA road miles?
Yeah, that's what I asked earlier.
No.
You asked about YLP, and YLP is private, but yes, it had.
It had 200 and something miles on it.
YLP was out because they're private, but it did have the special.
So there's two parts to this question. The data analysis and the data collected was all roads in Madera County. Obviously, because we're grading on pavement condition index, the gravelled roads were excluded. However, it was all roads in Madera County. For the purpose of this report and the miles presented, service areas and maintenance districts were excluded. This was strictly road fund tax dollars.
Well, would you say that again?
Maintain
Because that
mileage.
sounds different than what Ahmad said.
It says here they had 283 miles of special district roads.
Yeah.
They covered.
So what I'll try to explain a little bit differently, maybe that makes sense. So the funding scenarios, the cost scenarios that were presented in that report are related specifically to county maintained mileage. So that would not include costs in maintenance districts.
Right. Because
So
those are funded differently.
correct, because they come from a different funding source. Now, service areas, some of those roads are included because those are both county and service area roads. But again, what this tool will allow us to do is to be able to go in and look at just the maintenance district by itself and its road conditions and develop a cost similar to what you saw here, but for that district only, since they have a separate funding source.
Switching gears, we're going to be getting 4.9 million or approximately SB 1 money in the next year or so. And that's based upon some mathematical formula, correct? Would that mathematical formula include vehicles and miles within the maintenance districts and the CSAs?
They don't include that
Watch.
at all.
So the state, when they do this magic number, doesn't include all those residents?
No, it doesn't break them.
It's based on county maintained. So the density or the population of your county and whether or not, however many miles of county maintained roads you have. So it would exclude maintenance district roads.
Just for clarification, no general funds are permitted to be spent on maintenance districts. Same thing, all those funds that come, so everything that comes, SB1, the SB1 money is all to road maintained mileage. Maintenance districts are not considered road maintained mileage. They're special districts. They have their own private funding mechanism.
Okay, because earlier.
So it doesn't enter into the formula.
Right. Earlier, Supervisor Poitis, I believe, asked the question, or someone, whether gas tax, numbers of gallons purchased locally.
Yeah.
That was, okay, was part of the formula. And, and the answer was no, it's not. So it's based just basically upon miles? Well, it can't be population because you have to exclude MDs and CSAs then.
No, you only exclude the road miles and the MDs and CSAs.
population counts.
The population itself
counts.
Counts toward the
Yeah,
computation.
it's only the miles.
Okay.
And your DMV fees, vehicle registrations,
Right,
and all that.
right, okay. Let's be generous and say one's 50% and the other's 50%. 50%, if you count just the population, 50% of those funds should be excluded. In other words, if there's an amount that's going to us, and it's just short of $5 million, and a certain percentage of the population, 100% of the population is being used, but only, say, 20-30% of that population lives in maintenance districts, shouldn't that maintenance district get some type of credit for that 4.9 mil?
Nope, because they use all the public roads too. So their impacts to the public roads are factored into these equations.
Thank you very much for the clarification.
Thank you.
Lunchtime.
Lunchtime, yeah. Is that a move to adjourn? I accept your motion.
By the way, I just want to clarify, we do not make those formulas. Those are formulas from the state through the state controller and Streets and Highways Code. So those aren't things that we come up with and figure out how to do. They do the calculation, we get the funding.
Right, that makes sense. Thank you.
All right. If there's no more public comment, I'll close the public comment, bring it back to the board. Is there any other?
It's just discussion.
Yeah, it's discussion and direction. So is there any other direction other than let's make it go up?
Yeah.
can I be clear with the direction that we've heard? So we will come back to your board with recommendations and a plan of how to best implement this program management system and the money, and also come for our needs as far as equipment for road maintenance. And also we start on working with policy, with administration and your board, and get a more specific cost or maybe a pilot road, suggest a pilot road for the grind, to grind up one of your, probably in District 2.
Absolutely. Great.
Okay, that's it, Rick.
That's anything else?
Thank you, Margot, for a good job.
Looking at the
Amazing
residential
presentation.
areas for the maintenance districts in terms of
Yes.
getting, once we have their breakouts, to see how to get them into a higher level through 218, if need be.
Of course, yeah.
All right.
He mentioned also, the CAO said he didn't hear removing road miles, lowering inventory.
Yeah,
Right, absolutely.
vacating, of course,
Vacating
vacating
or
roads
grinding, yeah.
is a good thing, but also it affects our formula.
Yeah.
Because then, you vacate a road, then you take it out of your
If it's ground
inventory.
up, if it gets ground up,
Might be better.
then it stays in.
Something to
our-
look at.
Sure, I mean,
Yeah, okay.
we'll grind them up.
Well, look at that. Yeah, anyway.
Never mind. No, some are definitely more beneficial. We have been coming to your board for road vacation almost constantly, so.
Right. No
Definitely, we'll always do that. There are certain criterias, if we hit them, we're fine, we'll vacate.
All right, if there's nothing else, we'll move on from this. We've got pending legislation, a couple. Thank you, Margot, thank you very much.
Yeah,
That was
thank you,
well-
team.
Thank you.
Well done. Math may not have come easy, but
know, I love 'em.
you sure did it well.
Good afternoon, Chair, Board. My name is Shalea Holly-Young. I am the Chief of Staff to Supervisor Wheeler. I was here to get a consensus on sending a letter regarding Senate Bill 615, which seeks to amend the Public Records Act, but I've also learned that it's been withdrawn, so there is no need for a consensus at this time. If it comes back up, I will be here to inquire about it.
And Rhonda, she was telling me earlier that there's.
Yeah, the California Clerks Association, as well as the California Association of Clerk Officers, we use the same lobbyist, and this is on our watch list as well.
So it's a good thing. And then the other one I just want to introduce is in on Fresno B on the 7th of April about the secret DMV office up at Sacramento. Assemblyman Kelly offered a bill, Assembly Bill 862, to close that because it's special. It's right across the street from the Capitol, and they do all private work for our Senate and legislature. So I want to look at that and have Shalea look at that and see what we can do. The other thing I wanted to bring, I handed each one of you guys. Whoops, they left. Gosh, dang it. See if Matt's out there. I mean, not Matt, I mean Ahmad and Jared. This is, my team and I have been working on something like this for a while. This is the way we used to be able to do, Mariposa still does it, for 5 acre and less lots. They don't have to pave, up in the mountains especially, and do all-weather roads. And this is that paper I handed you earlier about changing our ordinance about not paving small, 5 acre lots or bigger, small developments. And I want to just, it'd be another thing, it's just like an incentive. It also help reduce the cost of building that it is right now so high. And it might be another incentive for us to get some lower income housing that we desperately need in Madera County.
I mean, this is kind of just back to the last last thing about our county maintained miles, so we'll open that back up again. But wouldn't this just create tomorrow's problem today?
Well, there's a bunch of them up there already.
If we just were talking about how we relaxed road standards
Right.
50 years ago, and now we're dealing with all these. So if they want to do this, it just can't become into the county maintained mileage.
Yeah,
Right.
most of them would be all, it
So
says
to
right
be
there, if you
private,
read
is
it
it just-
further, it
is it
says
just
they
to
will
go- I was reading it, is it just to
create
go
special
to their-
districts and all that, to take care of them, just like
Okay.
I did at the Flying O Ranch. There's 8 miles of road in there, I got the variance here, we take care of them. County
Yeah.
don't come on those roads.
So as long
And they're
as-
better roads than a whole bunch of, like it's in Dave's district right now, I guarantee you.
So that would be part of that direction regarding looking at special districts and the creation of special districts to take
For
care
this type
of
a
to
thing.
take care of.
You got one, Jared, you need another copy? Okay.
That's basically
I just want to bring it up and you guys look at it and see what you think, so.
Yeah. All right. Now we'll completely close 6F, but I think that fits in there.
It does, I didn't even think about that, but every time I try to bring it up during.
I have nothing to
She
report.
says it's not on
All
it.
right. Supervisor Rodriguez? Supervisor Rogers? Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes, I just wanted to thank staff and everything else for the great management workshop we had up at Bass Lake, and I tell you, I can't believe it, and I got a town hall tonight at YLP at 6 o'clock.
Awesome. CAO?
Nothing to report. No report, Chairman.
And before Rhonda goes, I wanted to compliment her and her team. Last Friday, we had the State Lands Commission meeting in here. The guy that was doing the sound came up to me and said, he complimented IT and Jay. It just said we were the easiest place for them to work with.
Really?
They loved the setting. The Lieutenant Governor chairs that board, so she was here. We talked to her, and she just went on and on about our facilities and how it presented Madera County. They were expecting it to be kind of podunk, her words. And she said it really presented us very, very well. So I just wanted to thank Rhonda and IT staff for setting that up and making us look.
Making us look good.
Yeah. Rhonda, now would you like to say anything? All right, and also I want to thank Eric and all of the department heads and staff that was up at the management retreat. I think we really did a lot of good, and hopefully we can accomplish even more this year. Not just because it's my year.
Because your leadership.
It does not make or break my year, Rob.
With your leadership, we
yeah.
might get her done.
With that, I'll adjourn the meeting. All right.